Public were provided with the following methods to watch and or participate in this open meeting. You can attend in person at the Air Farmers Community Center, Dumfries. You can attend electronically via Zoom to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. You can watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township YouTube page. Submitted written comments provided to the Clerks Division have been provided to council members and will form part of the public record. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank everyone for joining us this evening. We appreciate your participation. As we come together to serve the community, I ask that we create a welcoming and positive environment for everyone that includes respect, that we listen to each other with care, speak thoughtfully, and engage kindly with one another. Kindness, that we treat everyone, council, staff, and the public with respect and understanding. And inclusion, that we embrace diverse perspectives and respect each other's opinions. Together, we can make this meeting space one where respect, kindness, and inclusion are at the heart of everything we do. Behavior that is disrespectful, disruptive, aggressive, or intimidating will result in the individuals being asked to leave the meeting. I'd now like to call the meeting to order. Please, if you have approval of the agenda, Councillor Austin, please.
Move on myself, second by Councillor Rowland, that council adopt the August 10th, 2026 council planning meeting agenda with the following amendment. Withdraw agenda item 13.2.7, report number REC 12-2026, procurement and installation of 4 dugout shelters for Victoria Park ball diamonds from the August 10th, 2026 agenda.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Motion to approve the agenda, Councillor Rose.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rowland. That council adopt the August 10, 2026 council planning meeting agenda with the following addendums. Add correspondence received from item 13.2.1, report number CAO-27-2026. Potential declaration of 10 Water Street as surplus for municipal purposes. And add correspondence received for item 13.2.3, report number PD-49-2026, zoning bylaw amendment application for 92 Northumberland Street, ZC-08/25.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. I would now like to do the Indigenous acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land on which we gather to gaze the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Ojibwe people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. Now, reconciliation is an interesting word because a lot of us don't understand what they want or what's expected of us. And I think a lot of us want to mend fences that have happened in the past. And I've had the absolute privilege to meet several chiefs and found them open and welcoming. And what they want is to be acknowledged for what they've done. And again, I'll say the story about our Irene Aidney, when she did this research into the first NHL hockey player that was Indigenous status, found that person was born in Ayr, got a hold of the New York Rangers team, who sent us up 2 shirts recognizing that he was the first Indigenous hockey player. And at that time, Chief Ava Hill came and I presented her with one of the jerseys that said it right. And she said, this is reconciliation. Recognize that we are here, that we have accomplishments, that we want to work alongside you. And I embrace that, and I think many of us do. When we came to this land, they gave us respect and they welcomed us. And we lost that respect. And now we must work diligently to regain that respect, because that's who Canadians are. We do care, we do trust one another, and we do respect. And I think we're heading in the right direction. So let's pause and think about that for a moment. Thank you. Is there any disclosure between your interest or general nature of the law? Councillor Osmond.
Madam Mayor, moving retroactively from the closed session at 5:15 by conflict of interest with the agenda item 5.1 of the 10 Water Street. And you can see they also in our regular agenda tonight, 13.2.1 for the day.
Thank you. Councillor Wilms.
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest for item 14.2. That would be the item regarding the hyper AI data centers.
Thank you. And Councillor Wilms, I may be the only one left up here. Councillor Evans.
7.5.4, 11 Middle Street. That property, abuts property that I own.
Thank you. Can I have adoption of minutes, please, Councillor Wilman?
Moved by myself, second by Council Williams, that council approve the following meeting minutes. 6.1, special council meeting minutes dated June 18th, 2026. And 6.2, council and public planning meeting minutes dated July 13th, 2026.
All those in favor? Thank you. Councillor Rosner, so we can go into committee of adjustment, please.
Moved by myself, second by Council Bowman, that the council meeting adjourn at 6:06 PM to sit as committee of adjustment for the purposes of holding public meetings pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And Councilor Overman, committee adjustment, meeting adoption, committee meet.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Oster, that committee adopt the August 10th, 2026 Committee of Adjustment agenda as presented.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And Council Williams, yeah, the adjustment approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes. Previous minutes.
Madam Mayor, it's near pecuniary interest first.
I apologize, is there any pecuniary interest on this week, Council Williams?
7.5.4, as mentioned earlier.
Thank you, so noted, and now Council Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Holman, that Committee of Adjustment approve the following meeting minutes. Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes dated July 13, 2026.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. I think I've never done this before. 7.5 hearing public meeting minor variance consent application 7.5.1 report number PD 52/2026 minor variance application for 589 Grant Waterloo Road, file number A-12-26. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Clerk's Department to request a notice of decision. These individuals will be notified of the decision for the convening of future meetings on this application. There is a sign-in sheet on the back for each of these public meetings, and so if you sign your name, then you will be notified. Christina Blaza-Norfolk, Planet One GIS Technician, will present this application. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentations for minor variance application A-12/26 for the property located at 589 Brant Waterloo Road. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal, to solicit comments, and identify issues or matters to be assessed by staff. The property is located on the north side of Brant Waterloo Road, east of the intersection of Spriggs Road and Brant Waterloo Road. The property consists of a two-story single detached dwelling and accessory buildings. This property is approximately 30.9 acres in size with a lot frontage of 152.6 meters onto Brant Waterloo Road. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential. The property is zoned Z1 agriculture and designated agricultural in the Township official plan. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of a one-story coach house on the subject property. The coach house will have a building footprint of 8.2 meters by 17 meters with a total floor area of approximately 140.5 square meters. The proposed building height will be 3.18 meters. The following minor variances are being requested. Section 6.40.7 permits a maximum coach house size of 40% of the footprint of the principal dwelling unit. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a maximum size of 71% of the footprint of the principal dwelling unit. And section 6.40.9 II establishes that the coach house must be located within the rear yard. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit the coach house to be partially located within the side yard. This is a view of the property from the driveway. The principal dwelling is located on the left and the location of the proposed coach house is on the right. No correspondence has been received from any members of the public at this time. No major concerns have been received from commenting agencies, and planning staff are awaiting some additional comments. Staff recommends that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Staff will be considering matters including all comments and correspondence received, whether the development meets the criteria of the 4 tests, and the impact of the proposed development on surrounding properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I believe Justin Mascot has registered to speak virtually. Do we have Justin on? Justin, you're up.
Through you, Chair, to the committee, thank you for having me here today. So I would like to speak on behalf of the owners of this property. Essentially, that planning report was a good summary of the variances that we're seeking. And in general, what we're really looking for here is the ability to create more housing on this property for family. That is the intent. It's not a rental property or anything like that. And the intent is to allow the owner to have his son living on the property and his son's family living on the property with them. Most importantly, it also has to be just a reasonably sized home that the family can live in, hence the slight oversize, as well as the location on the lot. Even though the lot is rather large, obviously we want to make sure that the ADU is clustered with the principal residence still and not located, close in the front yard or anything like that, or close to the street or anything. So the location, putting it partially in the side yard is just a requirement of how the lot's laid out, because it's conservation land behind the house. So the location of it right now is really the only location that is doable on the lot, and keeping it in the kind of main cluster with the primary dwelling.
Thank you. Brad Martin, are you here? You want to say anything, Brad?
No, I think both folks summarized it very well. Obviously it's for the family, my son's here with me as well, so it's not gonna be a rental property. Eventually, we'll probably flip places when I need to slow down a little bit.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Any members of the public wish to speak on this item? Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Council Roman?
Moved by myself, so by Council Williams, that fee report number 52-2026 be received. And that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in future report to the Committee of Adjustment on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next is report number 7.5.2, PD 53-2026, minor variance application for 1211 Maple Manor Road. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Clerk's Department to request a decision, notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings on this application. Christina Velazquez, Planet One GIS Technician, will present this application. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentation. The following presentations for minor variance application A11/26 for the property located at 1211 Maple Manor Road. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal, to solicit comments, and identify issues and matters to be assessed by staff. The property is located on the south side of Maple Manor Road, east of the intersection of Misty Maple Trail and Maple Manor Road. The property consists of a one-story single detached dwelling. This property is approximately 1 acre in size with a lot frontage of 33.5 meters onto Maple Manor Road. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential, and this property is zoned Z2A rural residential and designated settlement residential and ancillary in the township official plan. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of a single-story detached garage on the east side of the dwelling. The proposed detached garage will have a total floor area of approximately 110 square meters and a height of 6.17 meters. The separation distance of 1 meter is proposed between the principal dwelling and the detached garage. The garage is proposed to be located within the required side yard of the principal dwelling. In addition, a retaining wall is proposed between the detached garage and the east property line to accommodate changes in grade. The retaining wall will form a portion of the driveway and wrap around part of the detached garage, with a maximum height of 1.83 meters. Based upon the definition of structure as set out in the general zoning bylaw, the proposed retaining wall is considered a structure as it is greater than 0.91 meters in height and is subject to the regulations set out under section 6.4 of the general zoning bylaw. The proposed retaining wall structure will be located 0.3 meters from the property line. The following minor variances are being requested. Section 6.4.1 establishes that no person shall erect an accessory building within a required side yard. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit the proposed detached garage within the required side yard. Section 6.4.2 establishes that no person shall erect any accessory structure closer than 1 meter from any interior or rear lot line. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a retaining wall to have a setback of 0.3 meters. And section 6.4.7 permits a maximum accessory building height of 5.2 meters. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a maximum accessory building height of 6.2 meters. This photo is a view of the subject property from Maple Manor Road, and the proposed garage will be constructed to the left. This photo is a view of the side yard and the proposed location of the detached garage. No correspondence has been received from any members of the public at this time. There have been no major concerns received from commenting agencies, and planning staff are awaiting some additional comments from commenting agencies. Staff recommends that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Staff will be considering all matters, including comments and correspondence received, whether the development meets the criteria of the forecast, and the impact of the proposed development on surrounding properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Justin Kelly, would you like to speak? Say anything, Justin?
Yes, please. Thank you. Yes, thank you to the committee. My name is Justin Kelly. I'm acting on the behalf of the owner in this case, from 1211 Maple Manor Road, for application A1126. The planning department did an incredible job putting together that presentation. So we are seeking relief for 3 minor variances. In this case, obviously the location of the garage and the side yard, the setback to the retaining wall, and the setback to, or sorry, the building height in this case. And as shown on the drawings there, unfortunately, this particular structure results in a number of these variances, mainly due to the existing grade location and the proposed location of the building. So obviously we want to be able to access this garage from the existing driveway, and therefore the location of this garage results in it being located on a hill, which then, based on the definition of average grade, results in a increased building height. The overall intention of the building is not intended to be a large building. It's actually designed as a 1-story garage. It's intended to fit with the existing neighborhood, and does not, the proposed roof height is not any larger than the existing roof height, but unfortunately, due to the grade, results in a number of these variances being required. So the only other thing we will mention in this case is the fact that we have received the comments, obviously the initial comments, just in relation to the existing grade and a grading plan being required. And the planning department made a great point. In this particular case, we are changing grade just so that the driveway can reach the front of the garage. But from that point forward, the existing grade is actually remaining. So all existing grade is to remain. The garage is actually designed to act as a structural retaining wall to support any earth inside of it for parking. But the existing grade remains the same, except for the actual driveway leading into the building. So those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Is Glenn Espinino here?
Yeah, that's me.
Hi, Glenn. Do you want to say anything?
No, Justin pretty much said everything. Yeah, I just wanted to be able to have a garage on the property, and with the septic system in the back, it didn't make sense to have anything in the back. That kind of seems like one of the only locations that I can build it. Thus, we're trying to get the minor variances to be able to facilitate that.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public that wish to say anything on this file? Councilors, any questions? Councilor Williman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to staff, the question I have is there any concern with stormwater management affecting that swale between the two properties that we see on the picture? And if so, what are the mitigating steps they can take?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, sorry to Council Roman, that's something that the engineering department will review, that will follow up with to confirm that there's no concerns there before bringing forward a recommendation.
Thank you. So any other council questions? Can I have the motion, please, Councilor Austin?
Moved by myself, seconded by Alita Williams, that PD report number 53-2026 be received, and all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report of the Committee of Adjustment on the disposition of this matter.
Those in favor? Good, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as your file comes up, if you want to leave, I know it's riveting to be here, and there's nothing else to do with your lives, and you could stay. But if you want to leave, just get up and exit as you will. I will not hold it against anyone except the passengers. You're not allowed to leave. 7543, report number PD 54-2026, minor variance application for 1580 Seaton Road, file number A0926. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Clerk's Department to request a notice of decision. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings on this application. Christina Blazard-Novik, Planner 1, GIS Technician, will present this application. Christina, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following presentations for minor variance application A09/26 for the property located at 1580 Seaton Road. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal, to solicit comments, and identify issues and matters to be assessed by staff. The property is located on the east side of Seaton Road, south of the intersection of Morrison Road and Seaton Road. This property consists of a one-story single detached dwelling and an accessory building. The property is approximately 2.5 acres in size with a lot frontage of 60 meters onto Seaton Road. Surrounding land uses are agricultural and rural residential. This property is zoned Z1 agriculture with site-specific zoning exemption 20.1.226 and designated agriculture in the township official plan. The purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of a coach house and a single-story accessory building in the rear yard of the subject property. The accessory building, intended to be a garage, will be attached to the proposed coach house. The proposed garage will have an area of 80.9 square meters. The proposed coach house will have an area of 159.8 square meters and a building height of 7.5 meters. A basement is also proposed within the coach house. The coach house will exceed the maximum permitted height of 6.1 meters, but will not exceed the height of the principal dwelling. The zoning bylaw permits a maximum coach house size of 40% of the footprint of the principal dwelling, or 110 meters squared, whichever is lesser. In this case, the principal dwelling has a footprint of approximately 321.8 square meters, of which 40% would equal approximately 128.7 square meters. As this is greater than 110 square meters, the lesser value of 110 square meters applies in accordance with the zoning bylaw, and a variance is therefore required for the proposed size. The 3D renderings on the screen are images of the proposed accessory building and coach house. The following minor variances are being requested. Section 6.40.7 permits a maximum coach house size of 110 square meters. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a maximum size of 159.8 square meters. Section 6.40.8I establishes that the coach house must not exceed a height of 6.1 meters. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a coach house height of 7.5 meters. And section 6.40.10 establishes that a basement is not permitted in a coach house. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a basement within the coach house. This photo is a view of the subject property from Seaton Road. The driveway extends to the rear yard from the right side, and this is where the development is proposed to be located. The photo on the left is a view of the rear yard while standing adjacent to the principal dwelling. The proposed development will be in the approximate area highlighted in red. The photo on the right is a view from the rear yard facing towards the front of the property and highlighting the approximate area of the development. One piece of correspondence was received from the adjacent property owner. Concerns were raised regarding whether the proposal satisfies the four tests under the Planning Act. In general, they supported the idea of a coach house, but raised concerns with the overall proposal, particularly around the size and height, the inclusion of a basement, and where it's located on the lot. They questioned whether the variance would be considered minor in keeping with the intent of the bylaw. And they also noted potential issues with the rear yard compliance and possible impacts to neighboring wells, and suggested a hydrogeological assessment if the application moves forward. The building department has advised that MDS calculations may be required due to nearby livestock operations. Planning staff are working with the applicant to confirm whether MDS requirements apply, and will ensure this matter is addressed prior to bringing forward a recommendation to council. And the township's engineering consultant has requested some additional clarification regarding servicing as well as an updated grading. Staff recommends that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Staff will be considering matters including all comments and correspondence received, whether the development meets the criteria of the four tests, the impact of the proposed development on surrounding properties, and review and confirmation of MDS requirements.
If you can see that, is the applicant here? Would the applicant like to say anything?
I'm here. Hi. Thank you, everyone. So I am actually the daughter of Kathy. I am the one who is, moving into the main house if we can have the proposed coach house with my young family. We have designed the coach house to kind of, mesh with the current home. We don't want it to look kind of offset or look out of place. So that's the design that we felt was best in terms of making it cohesive on the property. We want to be neighborly and have everybody in mind when designing this. And so we're just trying our best to check all the boxes and make sure everybody's concerns are brought to the table and try and address them as best as possible.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public that wish to speak on this item? Councilors, any questions? Councilor Williams? Councilor Ralston?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to staff, I have a question of whether or not we have other coach houses already with basements and two-door garages. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Williams. We do have some coach houses that have been approved that do have basements. And we do have some other ones that are attached to accessory buildings that are garages or just other accessory buildings in general.
Councilor Ralston?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very similar question to Councilor Williams. I mean, I have a stack of questions about this application, but at this point right now, since it's just coming back to council again, there's no sense in me asking them now because we don't have the answers. But I guess one question would be, besides the fact that, I mean, we set these bylaws, we set our bylaws with limitations, sizes, you know, no basements, this and that, and we constantly get applications that don't adhere to our bylaws and need exemptions to the bylaws. So at one point, you get to the, I get to the point where I start to wonder, okay, how big is too big? How outside the bylaws is too far outside the bylaws? I mean, it looks like a house. It's a house. It's not a coach house. And on top of that, with the other questions is, how would this be taxed compared to having a single family home? This is a single family home, it's not a coach house. So all those questions will come up later, but I guess my real question is, why do we have a limitation of not having a basement in a coach house? Like, where did that come about?
So now, Mayor, through to Councilor Oxton, perhaps I can answer that, because I remember that section being written, and no one here has the tenure why that's put in place. It was actually put in place based on experiences that were found in other urban communities where people were putting in full basements and they were turning into rental accommodations with multiple bedrooms. And so they were effectively turning into equivalent of lodging type style housing when it was really meant to be ancillary dwelling unit. So the intent was to not have the basements so that we could better curb the size of the units and keep them aligned with the intent of 1 or 2 bedrooms designed either as rental accommodation and or to support a family member to live in harmony on a residential lot, urban or rural. The other variances where we allowed the basement, it was defined to be limited not as habitable space. That was for mechanical and or storage. And we built as conditions to the minor variance, those restrictions.
Any other questions? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Council Norman?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Oster, that P report number 54-2026 be received. And all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration of the future report to the Committee of Adjustment and disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Yeah, I'll take Jack to be through. 7.5.3, report number PD 54-2026, minor variance application for 1580 Seaton Road, file number A0926. I did that one. It's the next one. Sorry. The next one is highlighted Council Ordinance about. Oh, MDS means minimum distance standard. When you hear the planners say that, minimum distance standards. 7.5.4, report number PD 55-2026, minor variance application for 11 Newell Street, file number A1326. Notice has been given and those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will take a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those registered with the Police Department to request a notice of decision. These individuals will be notified of decision or the future meetings on this application. Christina, they're really planning to work today, and Christina Bradford, planner 1, GIS technician will present this application.
Thank you, Madam. The following presentations for minor variance application A13/26 for the property located at 11 Newell Street. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal, to solicit comments, and identify issues or matters to be assessed by staff. The property is located in the Air urban area on the south side of Newell Street, east of the intersection of Wilson Street and Newell Street. The property consists of a 1-story single detached dwelling. This property is approximately 1,248 square meters in size, with a lot frontage of 24.5 meters onto Newell Street. Surrounding land uses are urban residential, and the property is zoned Z4 urban residential and designated urban residential and ancillary in the Township official plan. The purpose of the application is to facilitate an addition to the existing 1-story single detached dwelling on the subject property. The proposed addition includes a new attached single-car garage on the west side of the dwelling alongside the existing attached single-car garage. A 2nd-story addition will be constructed above both garages to accommodate a new primary bedroom. The addition will also expand the main floor to provide additional interior living space, including a bedroom, bathroom, and a living area extending towards the rear of the dwelling. At the basement level, a portion of the addition will accommodate a recreation room with a proposed walkout to the rear yard. The proposed addition will result in an overall building footprint increase of approximately 87.6 square meters. The 2nd-story addition will have an area of approximately 67.4 square meters. The basement level will provide an additional 55.4 square meters of floor area. And the proposed addition will result in a total additional floor area of approximately 210.4 square meters across all 3 levels. The proposed addition will result in a reduced interior side yard setback along the side of the dwelling. A variance is therefore requested to permit the proposed addition to be located closer to the interior side lot line than permitted by the zoning bylaw. In addition, a variance is requested to permit a reduced front yard setback to facilitate the extension of the existing covered front porch. The proposed porch extension will project approximately 1.83 meters further into the front, further towards the front lot line than the existing porch. The areas highlighted in green indicate the areas to be added on each floor. The image on the screen is a view of the side yard where the proposed addition will be. The following minor variances are being requested. Section 6.10.1 establishes a building line setback of 8.9 meters. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a building line setback of 7 meters. And section 8.3.3B requires a minimum side yard setback of 2.4 meters. The owner seeks relief from this provision to permit a side yard setback of 1.3 meters. No correspondence has been received from any members of the public, and there have been no major concerns received from commenting agencies. Planning staff are still awaiting some comments from agencies. Staff recommends that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Staff will be considering matters including all comments and correspondence received, whether the development meets the criteria before tests, and the impact of the proposed development with surrounding properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Any comments from the property owner?
I have nothing to add, Madam Mayor.
Any questions from the public? Councilors, any questions? Can I have the motion, please, Councilor Mills?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Osner, that the report number 55-2026 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report to the Committee of Adjustment on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. That's it. Next is 7.5.5, report number PD 56/2026, consent application for 3024 Old Beverly Road, file number B-0526, B-06/26, B-070/26, B-08/2026, and B-09/2026. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the police department to request the minutes of decision. These individuals will be notified of the decision in the future meetings on this application. Brock Luke, Senior Planner, will present this application. Welcome, Brock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This presentation has been prepared to present the details of 5 related consent applications with file numbers from file numbers B-0526 to B-0926. Affecting property municipally known as 3024 Old Beverly Road. The applications have been submitted by GSP Group on behalf of the property owner. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal and solicit comments from members of the public and relevant commenting agencies. No decision will be made on the applications this evening, with all comments received being returned to staff for consideration in a future recommendation report to the committee. The subject lands are located on the north side of Old Beverly Road between Robinson Road and Shellard Side Road, with frontage on all 3 roads. Robinson Road to the west, Old Beverly Road to the south, and Shellard Side Road to the east. The City of Cambridge municipal boundary also directly abuts the subject property's western boundary facing onto Robinson Road. The property has an approximate lot area of 11.3 hectares and is rectangular in shape. The southwest portion of the lot currently contains an existing single detached dwelling and detached garage. The central portion contains a wooded area and a GRCA wetland feature, and the easterly portion contains a fallow agricultural field. The subject lands are zoned Z1 agricultural and are subject to site-specific zoning exemption 20.1.65 in the Township zoning bylaw, and in the Township's official plan, the property is designated rural area and protected countryside. Surrounded land uses consist of agricultural, rural residential, and forested lands to the north, forested land and industrial uses to the south, residential uses within the City of Cambridge city limits to the west, and agricultural lands to the east. As an additional item of note, the Robinson Road right-of-way is owned and maintained by the City of Cambridge and not the Township of North Dumfries. This is the road that all 5 proposed severed lots would front onto. I will speak to this further later in the presentation. The applicant is proposing to sever 5 new rural residential lots from the property, each fronting onto Robinson Road as noted, along with 1 retained lot. As shown on, in the table on the screen, the retained lot would have an area of 5.73 hectares with a frontage of 170.6 meters onto Shellard Side Road. It would also have some frontage onto Old Beverly Road as well. The 5 severed lots range in size from approximately 0.93 to 1.73 hectares, each with between 34.9 and 44.4 meters of frontage onto Robinson Road. Lot 5, the largest of the proposed severed lots, would retain the existing dwelling, along with the associated, with the detached garage proposed to be removed. Oops. I'd note as well that a future zoning bylaw amendment would be required as a condition of provisional consent approval. That amendment would rezone the developable portion of each new lot to an appropriate rural residential zoning category, rezone the wetland feature and its buffer to an environmental protection 2 zone, and remove the existing site-specific exemption that applies to the lands. The amendment would be processed as a separate future application with its own notice and public meeting. Photo on the left of this slide shows a view from the existing Robinson Road frontage, and the photo on the right provides a partial view of the existing Old Beverly Road frontage. A couple more photos here. These next 2 photos show the property as viewed from Shellard Side Road, which would act as the frontage for the proposed retained lands. And on the right, a photo of the existing dwelling and detached garage. As noted, the house is proposed to remain on severed lot number 5, and the garage is proposed to be removed if the severance were to be approved. Looking at correspondence received, no public correspondence has been received to date. Any additional correspondence received up to or during tonight's meeting will be distributed to the committee for further consideration. Looking at agency correspondence, the applications were circulated to departments and external agencies for review, and comments have been received from several departments and agencies, as summarized on the following 4 slides. Firstly, the Fire Department and Waterloo Region District School Board have advised that they have no comments on the applications. The Township's Building Department has advised that all future development must comply with the Ontario Building Code, with permits being required for all structures. Additionally, a well will be required for each lot, with drinking water testing required prior to occupancy and building permit issuance. And development charges will also apply at the time of permit. Canada Post has advised that mail delivery for the severed lots will be by rural mailbox, and that any new mailboxes must comply with Canada Post delivery safety standards or be grouped with the existing mailbox that is in compliance. The Waterloo District School Board has advised that education development charges will be collected prior to issuance of building permit. Moving on to RJ Burnside and Associates, Township's peer review consultant. They reviewed the hydrogeological items, primarily the hydrogeological report, and have concluded that it adequately addresses the items in the approved terms of reference. They've also advised that there is an adequate bedrock aquifer to service the individual wells on each of the post lots with no well interference anticipated, and that treatment recommendations were provided in the report for elevated iron and iron-related turbidity identified in water quality sampling. Burnside has also confirmed that the lots are large enough for conventional septic systems without adverse impacts on neighboring properties. I'd note as well that Burnside's engineering peer review comments were received shortly before the start of this meeting, which I'll touch on in coming slides. And their environmental impact, their review of the environmental impact study that was submitted, however, remains ongoing, with those comments still to be provided to staff. The Region of Waterloo has advised that it has no objection to the consent applications, subject to conditions requiring payment of the regional consent review fees, which total $17.50 across the 5 applications, and the required access permits being received. A regional access permit will also be required to close existing accesses on Old Beverly Road, and future developments on the lands will be subject to the region's development charge bylaw. The next slide summarizes the engineering peer review comments that were received from RJ Burnside shortly before the start of this meeting. These relate to servicing and site works for the proposed lots and would be carried forward as matters for future consideration, either prior to receiving a future recommendation or most likely as conditions of consent as recommended by RJ Burnside. Firstly, Burnside has advised that extensive regrading of the ditch on the east side of Robinson Road will be required to accommodate the new driveways proposed. They have recommended a condition of consent requiring that all works within the road allowance be completed at the same time prior to lot creation. The proposed driveways will also need to be designed to drain into the roadside ditch rather than onto the roadway as currently shown, with the driveway entrance details to be confirmed at the road occupancy stage. Preliminary well and septic locations will also need to be shown on the grading and drainage plan to ensure there's no interference between lots, with a suggestion that septic systems be standardized to either the front or rear of each of the proposed lots. Additionally, a stormwater management brief is also being requested by RG Burnside to analyze pre to post development runoff and the capacity of associated ditches and culverts. Burnside also advised that a noise report should be required for lot 5 to confirm any required noise attenuation measures or building setbacks from Old Beverly Road, which is a regional road. And lastly, Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council also provided comments, noting that the lands are located within the Haldeman Tract and are subject to the 1701 Nanfan Treaty. Six Nations has requested a formal response prior to final approval, and that its request be included as conditions of approval should the applications be approved. Six Nations of the Grand River has raised concerns regarding the amount of vegetation proposed to be removed and has requested a 10-to-1 tree replacement ratio, along with consideration of smaller lot sizes to reduce the extent of the removal. They've also requested a 41-meter vegetation wetland buffer in accordance with their environmental levy policy, and that its wetland, its buffer, and other natural land be dedicated to the municipality and excluded from the separate lots. Six Nations has further requested additional environmental studies to be completed, including an arborist report and a multi-year field study, along with clarification as to whether locating development within the cultural meadow vegetation unit was considered. They've also requested that bird and light friendly building designs be promoted, with construction lighting to be turned off at night and any ATV crossings through the wetland to be blocked and restored. Turning to the city of Cambridge comments, the Robinson Road right of way that the lots would front into falls under the city of Cambridge's jurisdiction. Cambridge's Transportation Engineering Division has advised that an access permit will be required prior to the removal, alteration, or construction of any new accesses onto Robinson Road, with no conditions imposed at this time. Their Development Engineering Division has advised that final grading and culvert designs will be addressed at the time of that access permit application. And City of Cambridge planning staff have advised that they have no comments. At this time, staff are recommending that no decision on the merits of the consent applications be made, and that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and agencies through this consultation process be returned to staff for future consideration as part of a future recommendation report. In preparing that future recommendation report, staff will be considering matters including but not limited to all comments and correspondence received during the consultation process, including the outstanding comments from the Grand River Conservation Authority and RG Burnside's peer review of the environmental impact study, consistency with the provincial planning statement, and conformity with the intent and applicable policies of the regional and township official plans, consideration of the guidance contained within the township's recently endorsed, council endorsed township interim practice for residential lot creation document, and the cumulative effect of the 5 proposed lots on the character of the surrounding rural area along Robinson Road, suitability of each of the proposed lots for private servicing, well, and septic, having regard to the recommendations of the hydrogeological report, the relationship of the proposed lots, development envelopes, driveways, and servicing to the on-site wetland feature, and having regard to the completed EIS, the township's peer review, and comments from the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council, access sightlines and entrance locations on Robinson Road, having regard to the transportation impact brief that was submitted, the ownership and jurisdiction of Robinson Road being with the city of Cambridge, and any resulting requirements from that. Lastly, the establishment of appropriate site-specific zoning and lot standards through future required zoning bylaw amendment application. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next is Brandon Flewelling, Milan Lane, AJ Sharma have registered to speak virtually. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Flewelling. I'm planning consultant with GSP Group. here on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Sharma, who's joined in as well. Brock did a very thorough presentation, and there's, I guess, the proposal is a number of studies have been completed to support the proposed development. Most notably, the environmental impact study and the hydrogeological study. The findings of those, I guess, further comments from we are, looking forward to receiving their comments and working through any comments provided by Burnside on that. Similarly, happy to see the comments from the city of Cambridge with respect to access to Robinson Road, and understand that individual access permits would be required. We find this is a good use of rural land, matching similar lotting fabric that's already been established in the area. We think the supporting studies have done a good job to clearly understand the lay of the land, know that they can be appropriately serviced, and that if approved, the form of development is appropriate and can match the existing lotting pattern of the area. So we look forward to continue working with staff on these applications, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Next I have Marjorie Smith, virtually.
No, she's declined to speak.
She's declined. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Seeing any questions from council? Council Wills.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This question is through you to staff. What is the benefits of keeping the wetland as one area as proposed by the First Nations group, rather than just zoning it as environmental?
Through your Madam Mayor to Councillor Wilms, I'll have to follow up with First Nations on that to confirm their intent. I think there's pros and cons to both approaches, but I will follow up and get information from them on why they are requesting that.
CEO McNeely.
So Madam Mayor, in similar situations, the issues have been focused more on habitat, movement of aquatic life, if there is standing water, fishery resources and the like. With property lines, potentially there is the ability to put in future fencing or barriers that would negate the larger opportunities of the wetland feature. That's one of the key aspects that's been identified in the environmental impact study, and that's one of the key outstanding items to be resolved and reported back to the committee. Generally speaking, we try and avoid lot creation, segmenting an environmental feature system.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. Any further questions, Councilor Wills?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have one more question through you to staff, and that's with relation to the agricultural field. Is that going to be part of what's the existing house? Like, I wasn't quite sure, or is the existing house and one of the lots that will be severed? I was just a bit confused at what was happening with that field.
Through your Madam Mayor to Councillor Wilms, the existing residence and attached garage will be located on severed lot number 5. The retained lots will contain the existing fallow agricultural field, which are used by a separate farmer and are proposed to remain intact.
Any other questions, councillors? Can I have the motion, please, Councillor Austin?
Moved by myself, second by Rod Rowland, that PD report number 56-2026 be received. And then all comment correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration and a future report to the Committee of Adjustment on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next is 7.6, report and recommendation for the variance on consent application 7.6.1, report number PD 57/2026. Minor variance application for John Street, file number 80826. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Clerk's Department to request a notice of decision. These individuals will be notified of the decision of the convening of future meetings on this application? Christina Blasanova. Brock is going to do another one. Brock, Leonard will present this application. Brock, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following presentation is to present a recommendation report for minor variance application A0826 for the lands municipally addressed as 11 John Street in Ayr. The application was the subject of a statutory public meeting held on July 13th, where the details regarding the proposed application were shared with the committee and members of the public. Staff have since completed their review of the application and it is being brought forward to the committee this evening with a recommendation for consideration. Subject property is municipally addressed as 11 John Street, being located on the east side of John Street, south of the intersection of John Street and Church Street within the Ayr urban area. The property has an approximate lot area of 613 square meters with a lot frontage of 20.32 meters along John Street and is developed within an existing single attached dwelling. The property is zoned C4 urban residential in the township zoning bylaw and is designated urban residential and ancillary in the township's official plan. Surrounding land uses are characterized by urban residential uses. The application before the committee is the minor variance application to facilitate a rear addition to the existing single attached dwelling located on the property. As per the submitted materials, the addition would extend the existing living room, which currently projects approximately 2.3 meters from the dwelling, by a further 3.8 meters. The intent of the addition is to improve the usability and functionality of the living space for the owner, as well as increase natural light. The addition would result in a reduced rear yard setback of 5.7 meters, whereas 7.5 meters is the minimum requirement under the zoning bylaw. Turning to the specific variance, section 8.3.4 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 7.5 meters. The owner is seeking relief from this provision to permit the proposed addition to have a reduced rear yard setback of 5.7 meters, being a reduction of 1.8 meters from the bylaw requirement. A brief overview of the correspondence received through the consultation process. No public correspondence was received from any members of the public regarding this application. Looking at agency correspondence, the Township's Fire Department, GRCA, Region of Waterloo, Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Canada Post, and the Waterloo Catholic District School Board all advised that they have no comments or objections. The lone comment received was from the Township's Building Department, just to confirm that the proposed addition must comply with the current Ontario Building Code at the time of permit application. No objections to the requested relief were identified through the circulation of the application. Turning to the 4 tests for a minor variance. Staff have reviewed the application against the 4 tests under section 45(1) of the Planning Act and are satisfied that all 4 tests are met. Firstly, with respect to the official plan, the subject lands are designated urban residential and ancillary, which provides for residential uses within the Ayr urban area. The proposed addition does not alter the residential use of the property and does not introduce a new land use, and as such, the general intent of the official plan is maintained. Looking at the zoning bylaw, the rear yard setback provision is intended to provide amenity space, separation and privacy, drainage, and access space for maintenance. The proposed 5.7 meter setback continues to provide a functional rear yard and meaningful separation, and the addition is consistent in scale, height, and form with the existing dwelling, with no further relief being required. The variance is also desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land. It facilitates a modest improvement to an existing dwelling, supports the continued residential use of the lot, and will not be noticeable when viewed from John Street due to its location within the rear yard. And lastly, staff consider the variance to be minor in nature. The relief represents a reduction of approximately 1.8 meters and only applies to the proposed rear addition. The balance of the dwelling and property continue to comply with the zoning bylaw, with no adverse impacts anticipated on adjacent properties, municipal infrastructure, or neighborhood character. In conclusion, no objections have been received from members of the public or commenting agencies. The variance maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw and is desirable for the appropriate development of the property. Staff are therefore of the opinion that the requested variance satisfies the 4 tests under section 45(1) of the Planning Act and represents good planning. And based on the foregoing planning analysis, staff recommend that report number PD 57/2026 be received, and that minor variance application A0826 being a request to permit a minimum rear yard setback of 5.7 meters to facilitate the proposed addition to the existing single attached dwelling, whereas section 8.3.4 of general zoning bylaw number 68983 requires a minimum rear yard setback of 7.5 meters be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Brock. Any members of it's the agent or the applicant here that wish to speak? No, okay. Any members of the public wish to make any comments? Seeing none, any members of the council? Can I have the motion, please, Councilor Rossner?
Moved by myself, second by Alita Wilms, PD report number 57-2026 be received. And the minor variance application A-0826 being a request to permit a minimum rear yard setback of 5.7 meters to facilitate a proposed addition to the existing single detached dwelling, whereas section 8.3.4 of the general zoning bylaw number 689-83 requires a minimum rear yard setback of 7.5 meters be approved.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Now, can I have the adjournment of committee of adjustment, please, Councilor Wilms?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Holman, that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting of the Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 7:01 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. We will pause for a second, just, no, we're not gonna pause, okay? Give me a second to sign this. Councilor Austin? You didn't see it. Public meeting and hearings council, Public Meeting Planning Act, 8.1.1, meeting report PD 51/2026, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 3089 Greenfield Road West, file number OP 0226 ZC 0326. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will keep a record of all persons who provide comments on this application and those who register with the Clerk's Department to request a notice of decision. Those individuals will be notified of the decision of the convening of future meetings on this application. Michael Campos, manager of planning, will present this application. Michael, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Finally, my turn. Good evening to you, Madam Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. The application before council this evening relates to 3089 Greenfield Road, which many people will know as the former Greenfield Mill property. Baker Planning Group has submitted both an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment on behalf of Greenfield Mill Co. Because the two applications apply to the same property and are closely tied together, we are dealing with them through one public meeting this evening. Tonight is really about introducing the proposal, walking through the main planning pieces, and identifying the issues that still need to be worked through. Staff are asking council to make a decision, are not asking council to make a decision on the merits of the applications this evening. The comments received tonight and through the circulation process will come back to staff and be addressed in a future recommendation. To start with the property itself, the lands are located on the south side of Greenfield Road, about 235 meters west of Northumberland Street. The site is irregular in shape and is approximately 1.7 hectares or about 4.35 acres in size, with limited frontage onto Greenfield Road. A portion of the property already sits within the Greenfield Rural Settlement Area. The defining feature of the site is the former Greenfield Mill building, which was originally constructed around 1865. The mill is individually designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act and is also located within the Greenfield Heritage Conservation District. This is not vacant or ordinary rural property. It is a historic property in a very unique setting with a long-standing connection to the Greenfield community. And at the same time, the site is also physically constrained. It contains or is adjacent to natural features, including woodlands, wetlands, steep slopes, and features associated with the Myth River Valley system. And those constraints are an important part of the review. From an official plan perspective, the property is split between a number of designations. The northern portion is identified as being within the Greenfield Rural Settlement Area, and the southern portion is designated prime agricultural, and the lands are also affected by environmental and hazard-related designations, including core environmental features, significant valleys, environmental constraint areas, and hazard lands. The zoning follows a similar split. The northern portion is Zone Z3, rural residential, while the balance of the property is Zone Z1, agricultural. The reason this is important is that the current planning framework does not permit the proposed event venue, restaurant, and related commercial uses. It also does not place the whole developable area within the settlement area, and that is why both the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment are required. This slide gives council and members of the public a sense of the property as it exists today. The mill remains a very recognizable building and is an important part of Greenfield's history, but it also has been vacant for a long time and has deteriorated through its vacancy and exposure. The photos on this slide show both sides of the story. There is a clear opportunity here to restore and adaptively reuse a significant heritage resource, but the current condition of the building also shows why any reuse will need careful heritage review, technical review, and a realistic plan for restoration. And the goal from a planning perspective is to understand whether the proposal can bring this building back to life in a way that respects the heritage value of the mill and the broader setting around it. So the purpose of the applications is to create the planning framework needed to support the proposed reuse of the former mill. At a high level, the applicant is proposing to restore and adaptively reuse the building as a fourth-season event venue and standalone restaurant. The proposal also includes complementary retail, commercial, and accessory uses. And those are intended to support the broader venue and restaurant concept and make the building functional as a modern and accessible space. Because of the current official plan designations and zoning, the applicant is not simply asking for site plan approval or building permits. They need amendments to the settlement boundary, to the land use designations, and to zoning before the proposed use can be considered for approval. In terms of what is being proposed, the main components are 2 event venue spaces with a combined capacity of approximately 230 people and a standalone restaurant with capacity for about 75 people. The concept also includes a wine cellar and tasting area, coffee shop, retail and office space, bridal and groom's suite areas, and related kitchen, service, and storage spaces. The building includes about 805 square meters of building area, made up of approximately 625 square meters of the existing building area and about 180 square meters of a new building area. And the total gross floor area of the entire building is approximately 2,251 square meters. Outside of the building, the proposal includes 110 surface parking spaces, 6 barrier-free spaces, 8 lay-by parking near the entrance, a loading space, an internal fire route, a circular turnaround area, a private stormwater management facility, and proposed municipal water and sanitary servicing extensions. It's important to emphasize that this is still a conceptual plan. The details of the layout, servicing, parking, landscaping, stormwater management, and the building design remain under review. This slide shows the proposed site plan concept. Former mill building is generally located toward the center of the property, with the main parking area shown to the west of the building. The proposed access comes in from Greenfield Road through a corridor to the east of the existing residential properties. And that access would lead into the site and connect to the parking areas, the circular turnaround, the fire route, and the building entrance areas. The stormwater management facility is shown southeast of the mill building. The surrounding green areas on the plan are also important. They reflect the environmental context of the site and the need to properly address natural heritage, hazard lands, grading, setbacks, and restoration planting. The site plan helps explain the applicant's overall intent, but it is not final. A number of elements shown here, including access, grading, parking, stormwater, and the relationship to environmental features, still require further technical review. So the official plan amendment is one of the more important parts of this application. The applicant is asking to expand the Greenfield Rural Settlement Area so that the entire subject property can be included. They are also asking to designate the developable portion of the property as settlement core area on map 2.8 of the official plan. In addition, the amendment would remove or revise environmental, hazard, and agricultural designations affecting the developable portions of the land. And the exact boundaries of those changes still need to be confirmed through this technical review. And one key policy issue is Township Official Plan Policy 2.9.2.7.2, which currently states that no expansions to the Greenfield settlement area will be permitted. If council were ultimately to support the application, site-specific wording would be needed to address that policy directly. The provincial planning statement now allows planning authorities to consider settlement area boundary expansions at any time, subject to the applicable criteria. And that means the request can be considered through this process, but it does not mean it must be approved. Staff still need to assess the merits of the request against all applicable planning policies and technical consideration. The zoning bylaw amendment is a tool that would establish the site-specific zoning permissions and standards for the property. Currently, the property is zoned Z3 rural residential and Z1 agricultural, and neither of those zones permits the event venue, restaurant, or related commercial uses being proposed. The applicant is proposing to rezone the developable portion of the lands to a site-specific Z7 rural commercial zone with a holding provision. And the zoning is intended to permit the event venue and banquet hall, the restaurant, and related commercial uses. And one of the things staff will need to work through is the final permitted use list, particularly whether uses such as the wine cellar, the coffee shop, retail, and office space are intended to operate independently or as an accessory use. The site-specific zoning would also need to deal with matters like setbacks, building height, parking requirements and parking locations, and appropriate setbacks from nearby residential properties, natural heritage features, and hazard lands. And a holding provision is also proposed. At this stage, that would relate to matters such as the record of site condition and completion of the archaeological assessment process, with the potential for other matters to be added depending on the outcome of the continued review. There are several major infrastructure matters that still need to be resolved as well. The first is access. The proposed access would come through an approximately 20-meter wide corridor from Greenfield Road, located to the east of the subject lands. And that corridor is privately owned and is not currently part of the mill property. The owner would need to acquire it and legally add it to the subject lands. That same corridor would provide the sole vehicular access to the site, and it would also accommodate the proposed municipal water and sanitary service extensions. On servicing, the applicant is proposing a new water main extension, a private sanitary pumping station, and a force main connecting to the existing regional sanitary sewer. And those infrastructure costs would be the owner's responsibility, but the feasibility, timing, ownership, and long-term operations still need to be reviewed by the township and the region. Parking is another important matter. The applicant is proposing 110 on-site parking spaces, and based on the current zoning bylaw calculations, approximately 169 spaces would be required. The applicant's consultant has provided site-specific parking assumptions, including different operating times, internal capture, and possible use of shuttles or prearranged transportation. And those assumptions remain under review by staff as well. Transportation matters also remain outstanding, including warranted northbound left turn lane, roundabout screening, emergency access, intersection operations, and internal circulation. In terms of public correspondence, notice of the application in tonight's public meeting was circulated to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property in accordance with the Planning Act. A notice sign was also posted along the Greenfield Road frontage. And at the time the report was prepared, staff had not received any written comments from members of the public. That may change through tonight's meeting or through the continued circulation period. Any comments that are received will be reviewed by staff and addressed in a future recommendation report before any decision is brought back to council. This slide summarizes the main agency comments through the first circulation. Starting with RJ Burnside, acting as the township's engineering consultant, their comments identify the need for more detailed work on servicing, grading, drainage, stormwater, hydrogeology, traffic, parking, noise, and the natural heritage matters. The Region of Waterloo has advised that it does not support approval at this time. That position is tied to unresolved servicing, access, transportation, and infrastructure matters, including the proposed water main, the access corridor, the left turn lane, and roundabout screening. Township Engineering and Public Works has also identified the need for an entrance permit off of Greenfield Road and resolution of the engineering comments submitted by RJ Burnside. The Six Nations of the Grand River has recognized the potential value of adaptively reusing the former mill, while also seeking for further consideration of environmental impacts, the proposed eastern access, tree management, native planting, ecological mitigation, and Aboriginal and treaty rights. The Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation has no archaeological consultation concern with the project proceeding at this time, but its environmental unit has requested additional detail on tree replacement. Overall, the comments do not close the door on the proposal, but they do show that there are important technical and consultation matters that need to be addressed before staff can make a recommendation. There were also a number of additional comments from departments and agencies. The fire department and the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks have no comments or objections at this time. The building department, Grandbridge Energy, and the Waterloo Catholic District School Board and Canada Post have identified matters that would need to be dealt with at later stages, such as permits, servicing agreements, development charges, mail service, and other implementation requirements. And these types of comments are fairly typical at this stage. They do not resolve the broader planning questions, but they help identify the matters that would need to be carried forward if the applications proceed. Staff's recommendation this evening is that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further review and a future report to council. And the reason for that recommendation is that this is still the public meeting stage. Staff are not recommending approval or refusal tonight. There are a number of big picture planning matters that need to be addressed, including consistency and conformity with the Planning Act, the provincial planning statement, the regional official plan, and the township official plan. The central issue will be whether it is appropriate to expand the Greenfield Rural Settlement Area for this site, particularly given the township official plan policy that currently says no expansions to the Greenfield settlement area will be permitted. Staff will also need to review the proposed settlement area boundary and whether it's appropriate to remove or revise the environmental hazard and agricultural designations and zoning affecting the developable portions of the property. Beyond the settlement area question, there are several environmental access and servicing matters that are also important. Staff will need to consider potential impacts on agricultural lands, natural heritage features, and ecological functions. That includes setbacks, tree compensation, restoration, planting, and long-term monitoring. The comments and interests of Six Nations and Mississaugas of the Credit will also need to remain part of the process, particularly where they relate to environmental mitigation, restoration, and continued consultation. Access is another key issue. The proposed corridor must be acquired and legally added to the subject property, and staff will need to be satisfied that it is safe and suitable for passenger vehicles, service vehicles, and emergency access. Servicing also remains under review. The project relies on extensions to municipal water and sanitary services, and there are still questions around timing, ownership, cost, and the proposed dead-end water main, water quality, and regional infrastructure requirements. The stormwater management strategy, sanitary pumping station, force main, floodplain response, grading, and slope stability work will all need to be resolved before a final recommendation can be prepared. Finally, staff will be reviewing the transportation, the compatibility, and heritage pieces in more detail. That includes the traffic and parking assumptions, the proposed 110 parking spaces, and how the site would function during events. Staff will also need to confirm the final permitted uses and parking rate, especially whether the restaurant, wine cellar, coffee shop, retail, and office uses are independent uses or accessory to the event venue. And compatibility with the Greenfield community will be a major consideration as well. That includes noise from events, outdoor ceremonies, amplified sound, lighting, built form, and visual impacts on nearby residential properties. Heritage will also be essential to this review. The Greenfield Mill is individually designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act and sits within the Greenfield Heritage Conservation District. The proposed demolition, restoration, additions, and the cultural heritage impact assessment recommendations will need to be carefully reviewed, including through the Heritage Advisory Committee process. Staff remain encouraged by the opportunity to bring the former Greenfield Mill back to life, but the strongest path forward has to be one that respects the history of the property, protects the surrounding environment and neighborhood, and gives confidence that the access, servicing, and infrastructure can be safely and responsibly delivered. For tonight, staff are recommending that all comments be returned for review and addressed through a future report to council. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Is Carolyn Baker here? Welcome, Carolyn.
Michael, can you stop sharing? Yeah.
Perfect, wonderful. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, members of the public. My name is Caroline Baker. I'm a land use planner with Baker Planning Group, representing the Greenfield Mill on behalf of this application. Firstly, I just want to thank staff. We recognize this is a unique and comprehensive redevelopment proposal for the Greenfield Mill. We appreciate all their work in reviewing the reports and look forward to future comments. Also, thank you to everybody that attended the open house in June. It was very windy and everybody made the best of that day to hear about the proposal and walk the site and really get a feel for the property and its historical development. Certainly staff's presentation was very comprehensive and thorough in terms of the submission. So what I want to do with the time that I have is just focus on some of the technical studies and the planning justification. We are in receipt of circulation comments to date. They've been sent to all the consultants. Certainly we view them as achievable to address, and we'll continue to work with staff. As noted, it is a comprehensive event space that would see the revitalization of the former mill. This will include a venue that could be used by the community for events or weddings, restaurant, retail, coffee shop, and wine cellar. I think fundamental to a lot of the considerations you'll hear about in terms of traffic and parking is the way that this site operates. And certain uses will be open at certain times and others at other times. It's not that it's full the entire time all week, which really led into some of the recommendations. As mentioned, the official plan is to expand the urban boundary, certainly which requires tests under the provincial planning statement, along with the zone change. I'm going to spend our time on the technical studies. First is the servicing report, which is the extension of municipal services. So the intent is this would be on full municipal services, not private services. And we will continue to work with the region on coordinating the extension and their comments related to the water main. With respect to traffic and parking, a very detailed analysis was put together, again, because of the unique nature of the use and how different components operate at different times and at different peaks from standard traffic. So as an example, certainly we did hear from members of the public and was identified in the traffic study is turning left from Greenfield onto Northumberland and the delays that happen at that intersection. Most notably, those delays are actually in the weekday PM peak. So what I would call rush hour after work, where this proposed facility, the prime use would be in the evenings on Friday and Saturday, with the components more related to the restaurant and the wine shop during the week. So their operational hours vary from the typical workday AM, PM peak that we see during the workday. Similar logic flows through to the parking study that again, the nature of the use is at different times and different uses, particularly with a wedding venue. Certainly there is some assumption from the transportation engineer that not everybody drives, given the festivities and the type of event that would occur on site. The transportation engineers supported both the parking rate and the traffic. Comprehensive urban design brief was prepared to assess land use compatibility, certainly recognizing that there is a low density residential neighborhood that surrounds this property, ensuring there's appropriate building setbacks. I would note that the building is approximately 60 meters from the closest property from a setback perspective. And because of the grade of the site, if you were there at the open house, the height of the building with the addition aligns with the height of the homes on Greenfield. Because of the slope, they end up having a similar height, which minimizes any impact related to sun shadowing. There was a noise study prepared. Certainly this is not an industrial use, but given the commercial neighbor that there's events, there might be music. There's also rooftop mechanical loading that might occur. Certainly the study found that the development meets all ministry guidelines. There's geotechnical and slope stability and environmental impact study that has been completed. And certainly we're still awaiting GRCA comments, but we will certainly respond to those received. The owners completed, as I mentioned, sun shadow and microclimate. Again, if you were down on the site with the wind, just looking at the impacts with respect to the building changes. Certainly a most critical point of the site is its Part 4 heritage designation. A comprehensive heritage impact assessment has been completed by the Bigley Area Group. They do note that there are some modifications to the site, but they are supported by a structural assessment that was completed by Tacoma engineers. that certain portions of the site are not stable and structurally sound to be retained. And there is minor works related to stabilization, some new additions, and of course, ensuring the building is accessible for today's needs. Their conclusion that the hybrid approach of selective restoration, rehabilitation, and the ability to preserve this building is a balanced, feasible option that can be supported from a heritage perspective. In terms of the policy framework, I authored the planning justification report. Certainly has identified this as a boundary expansion. What's unique to the site is a portion is in the settlement area of Greenfield and a portion is out. In my view, that's unique because this has always been a site with an urban land use. It is a existing single lot property with boundaries that hadn't changed. The application looks to bring the whole site into the settlement area. In my belief as a planner, this was always part of the Greenfield settlement area community and its history, and the application reflects that. It's also interesting in that it's only about 250 meters from the air settlement area. And in my view, the site does not have any viable agricultural use, given the existing buildings, the slope, the floodplain, and the tree cover. We also confirmed no impact to surrounding livestock operations or new livestock operations that might be proposed. Certainly a key consideration is to ensure we protect prime agricultural areas and their operation. In summary, concluded that consistent with provincial planning statement, meets the intent of the OP, and is appropriate for inclusion in the settlement area for their proposed use. We appreciate staff's comments and we'll continue to work with them, and we look forward to being back in front of you in the near future with some resolution to those items and moving this exciting project forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any members of the public wish to speak on this application? Yes. Oh, we have some registered, that's right. Is that Citra Vita? Oh, the last one. And then.
If it's Laura recommending.
Yes. I thought it was and Citra?
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, excuse me.
Yes,
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, we're one of the residents of Greenfield and we had some concerns with the noise coming from the larger scale events. We're hoping to hear more about what exactly are the plans to lessen that noise. In addition to the noise to complaint comes the traffic also. There's a lot of farm traffic and a lot of weekend travelers that come through Greenfield as well along the street. So hoping to hear more about what the plans are to mitigate those risks. Thank you.
And what about Laura?
They were together.
Oh, they're together. Okay, thank you. And I have a Bill Franco. Is Bill here tonight?
Yeah.
Come on, do you want to speak?
Ultimately, I'm the neighbor of the previous speaker. Our concerns are the same. Noise, traffic, what kind of environmental, impact this is gonna have on the site.
So all your comments are being written diligently by the planners over here, so they're taking noted and.
I was there, Jim. We had some conversations as well, so.
Okay, anyone else?
Just have to, so is there an opportunity after this meeting to send comments in?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So, Michael,
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I will be available. You can send any sort of comments through email. You can come and speak to me at the office, or you can give me a call if you'd like.
Sorry, were you?
Michael Campos?
Michael Campos, Manager of Planning.
Do you have your business card?
I do
That's
not
okay.
right here, but what I would recommend is that you just add your name to the sign-in sheet at the back here with your contact information, and we'll reach out.
Sure, I just didn't hear it. I know who you are, so it's okay.
Okay, good. Okay, any members of council, wish any comments? Councilor Roman, Councilor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of questions to staff. One with regards to the servicing extension. If we're bringing water and sandy into Greenfield, is that only going to be to the site, or are we allowing the residents of Greenfield to also opt into water and sandy, or is this not within the purview of this project?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Roman. It is not part of the purview of the application, but it is a comment that was raised and one that the region also wanted to have a conversation about with the applicant. So we're at the initial stages of what that might look like, if that's even a consideration at this point. But right now, we've received the first round of comments from the region. We're working with the applicant to organize the time to speak with the region. And that'll be part of the discussion, but at this time, it's not as part of the purview. The interest here is the connection of municipal services to the subject property.
Right.
So the second question through staff, just regards to traffic, I'm wondering, is there any discussion with the region about putting a signalized intersection at Greenfield Road West, or this is also not, we cannot discuss with the region?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Council Roman. At this time, there hasn't been a discussion about signalized intersection, but it's certainly something that we can review, and if that is something for consideration, we'll have that conversation.
Council Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is about the notice of application at 120 meters. Is it possible to extend that 120 meters on Greenfield Road? It's not gonna hit too many of the residents there. I was wondering if they could extend, if it's possible to extend the notice of application to more of the neighbors. So that they can raise their concerns as well.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Ossner. Oh, yes, we do normally send out notices to 120 meters. That is a minimum, so we could have extended that as part of this notice, and apologies for not having done that. But certainly if there is a desire to reach out to other residents, we can certainly look into that as part of this process.
Yeah, my only concern is the location of the property. 120 meters Greenfield Road is not that.
Yeah,
So big. If you're 120 meters and
That's two
you're
properties.
in one of the subdivisions, 120 meters covers a lot of residents. When you're on Greenfield Road, 120 meters doesn't cover an awful lot. So I'm hoping that we can extend it further so we get more input from everybody on Greenfield and everyone that's local and concerns them.
So I think that would be direction to staff to please circulate to all of Greenfield Road. Thank you. Greenfield Road West. Thank you. That's it all.
I have one more question to staff. This is more of a heritage question. With regards to the nail laminated timber in the greenhouse section. When we were on site, there was some discussion about I realize it has to be taken down, but potentially preserving some of it and reusing it perhaps somehow in the new addition. So I noticed there was discussion with, I think, their heritage consultant at the time, Rachel Redshaw talked about that. I'm just wondering, can that be put in the official comments? Because I know that's pretty unique, that form of stacked timber. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of way we could have that reused.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Roman, absolutely. We will include that as part of the record of public comments, and then we'll respond to that as part of our future recommendation.
Councillor Uzziah. Councillor Roman, the motion, please.
And they're moved by myself, second by Councillor Wilms, that the report number 51-2026 be received. And all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report to council on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now I would like to call upon Michael Compost, Manager of Planning and Brock. We can take a break. Okay. Small break. Before we start, I'd like to call upon Michael Combo and Brock Linkletter to come up.
Oh, you guys are in trouble now.
Called to the front of the class. Gentlemen, stand over here, please.
What did you do? What did you do?
On behalf of Township Council and staff, I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate Michael, manager of planning, and Brock, senior planner, on the successful completion of the municipal climate adaptation certificate that was completed through the University of Waterloo Collegiate Institute. This program was designed to enhance the skills set of land use planners and provide the context to assist with raising awareness necessary to build local climate resilience and integrate adaptations into local planning framework and policy development. I'd like to ask Michael and Brock to please, we already approached the podium and we'll present their certificates. This is for Jerry. Show the button. Congratulations, Brock.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Show them your certificate. Something else for the previous. So, Councilor Austin, you have the motion. No.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Rowland, that the presentation of Michael Campos, manager of planning, and Brock Linkletter, senior planner, regarding their completion of the municipal climate adaptation certificate through the University of Waterloo's Climate Institute be received with congratulations.
All those in favor? Karen, thank you. Thank you again, gentlemen, well done. So we're now at the consent agenda. Is there any items wish to be lifted from the consent agenda? Being none, can I have a motion for the consent agenda, please, Councilor Williams?
Made by myself, seconded by Councilor Osmer, that the following report as listed on the August 10th, 2026 on consent agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. 12.1.1 report number FD-09-2026 Fire Department Incident Response Summary for July 2026. 12.1.2 report number FIN-14-2026 Waterloo Region Community Foundation Grant Award and Allocation Air Community Theater. 12.1.3 report number is 13-2026 Community Environmental Fund of Waterloo Region Oakwoods Park. And that the following information items as listed on the August 10th, 2026 consent agenda be received. 12.2.1 communications and correspondence. A, correspondence received from the Eastern Lake Area Regional Conservation Authority, ALERCA, regarding amalgamation. B, resolution received from the Township of Southwest Oxford regarding the Pesticides Act. C, resolution received from the Township of Clearview regarding traffic calming and speeding mitigation techniques. D, correspondence received from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks regarding proposed regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act. And E, resolution received from the Township of Alnwick, Haldimand regarding beacons of light, British home children and child migrants.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Thirteen point 2.1 report number CAO 27/2026 potential declaration of Town Water Street as surplus for municipal purposes. When somebody has a conflict of interest, they have to leave the room.
Hi there. Bye. Bye.
CEO McNeely? Any report? No? Okay.
For Council June.
Okay, so any questions from the public? I believe that Amy has the first 5 minutes.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Foxton. My name is Irene Aidney, and I am the chair of the North Dumfries Historical Preservation Society. I made a presentation at the June 22nd council meeting on behalf of the Preservation Society that 10 Water Street be considered as a future museum and archives. We thought we had direction to prepare a business plan on this site until advertisements appeared in the media that informed us council will consider selling the Part 4 Heritage Home. And council appears to be in a rush to push the sale forward from its spring 2027 schedule, paying an undisclosed amount to have the property landscape now. Thank you to CAO Andrew McNeely, who clarified through numerous emails and in a meeting last Tuesday that the direction by council to the Preservation Society to prepare a business plan on the proposal for 10 Water Street was in fact direction to prepare a business plan for a proposal for somewhere not specifically directed at 10 Water. In order not to put the cart before the horse, as Councillor Roloman commented to the local press, and in order to prepare a business plan, the Preservation Society is requesting council's vision to determine where the cart would be, so we can figure out what the cart would be used for. Council needs to share its vision for heritage preservation in the township. If council only wants a storage depot for archives, a public-facing space is not required. But if council wants to share the vision of the Preservation Society, it would be to have a meeting hub for local groups, a destination for tourism, a walkable destination for education, for educating over 1,000 school children attending elementary schools in Ayr, a walkable destination for seniors, rental venue for gatherings, location for social or fundraising events, even a speaker series, and maybe a place for art exhibits. Adding 10 Water Street to the township's assets would be the first step. We realize this vision goes beyond the capabilities of our volunteer organization. It requires North Dumfries Council to take a view similar to Wilmot Council that owns the museum at Castle Kilbride and Wellesley Council that owns the Wellesley Schoolhouse Museum and partner with the local historical society. What came up at our meeting with the CAO is that the township owns 4 properties: 10 Water Street, the Ayr Library, the Ayr Community Center, and the Roseville Community Hall. Similar to the Monteith report that council funded for the Twin Pad, council could engage a similar process on the viability of each of these locations if council's vision is a public-facing space. I hope that the vision of the Preservation Society can be determined by council in a similar manner as the design for our new Twin Pad. The Twin Pad Committee accepted a more modest facility for a few million less, but council voted to go for the Cadillac model, a $16 million building with a gym, office space, meeting rooms, and a clubhouse for the Ayr Centennials, not a building for now, but for the future. This is the vision we want for our township, not for the Preservation Society, not for ourselves, but for the township. And the future of preserving heritage in North Dumfries depends on it. Thank you.
Any questions, any questions for council? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Nancy Grubb.
Good evening.
Hi, Ms. Nancy, please.
I am reminded, as I'm speaking tonight, of the last time I was here for the possible sale of the Ayr Community Center. It seems people get very passionate about things they believe in. I believe that all the township archives and historical artifacts should be displayed and available to everyone. We are required to keep all archives by law. Now, the question is where to keep them. They are currently kept in a portable outside the NDCC by volunteers. It's just out there. This portable has no proper protection from fire or severe weather. Also, no one can access them except for volunteers from the Historical Society. As a side note, we are the only township without a museum. The property on Water Street is a historical home. It was the home of the first postmaster in town. What a great way to preserve it by honoring the person who lived there with it becoming a museum and archive. Seeing everything displayed in a beautiful historical setting. Kids in our schools could walk there for field trips to learn about the village. People who live there, who live here, could research their properties and surrounding areas. A petition was presented to the council in an addendum, I believe, by several people wanting to sell the house. I'm sure there would be an equal amount of people who would want to keep it. In the petition, they had specifically wrote about the motion for the house in 10 Water, that taxpayers are entitled to rely on that stated direction, and any departure from it should be supported by a clear public rationale, a complete financial analysis, and broad community consultation. I take it that means they want every motion that passes to be followed word for word. If that is the case, then I imagine council should have already told us about overages in the twin pad, and I'm sure for the millions more that will come. Will there be a public outcry about that? People seem to pick and choose which items they pressure council on. I'm curious as to what the rush is to sell this property. It's a buyer's market now. Hardly the time to rush and put it up for sale when the construction at the ACC isn't even finished. In society these days, no one wants to think about or honor the past, only the future, barely thinking about the here and now. Life is moving fast. While people say, yes, we have to keep the archives, or you could put them in a change room or here and there, they would not fit there, by the way. What they're really saying is just stuff them anywhere. Because honestly, I don't think they care. And as a council, I don't think you do either.
Respect, please. Respect.
If anybody did, we would already have a museum. Thank you.
Susan McDonald.
Madam Mayor Foxton, members of council, and township staff. I reside at 9 Gore Street, 9 Gore Estate Court here in Ayr, and I am speaking on behalf of a group of concerned Township North Dumfries residents about the recent purchase, 10 Water Street. First, I might add, we are not against a museum. We're fully for the museum, just not at 10 Water Street. We're here today to ask for full transparency about the future disposition of 10 Water Street. We're concerned that any funds drawn from the reserve accounts be returned in keeping with the original intent of the purchase. We request that any business case be made public before council makes the decision, and that the decision be financially responsible, sustainable, and clearly in the best interest of township taxpayers. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Can you stop me with 5 minutes, please?
I just wanted to ask permission to have an extra 2 minutes because I'd like to show a very short video.
That would have to be a motion by council to waive the procedural bylaw. And remember, if you do provide that with referral, you can waive the procedural bylaw.
Is this like just for clarity's sake, for all for tonight or for all forever?
You're waiving the procedural bylaw for tonight, for this individual.
For tonight.
Yeah.
I'm fine with seeing the video.
You may proceed with the 5 minutes on the video.
Hey.
Yeah, excellent.
When most most people think of archives, they picture a dusty old warehouse like at the end of Indiana Jones. But archives are not hidden storage vaults full of forgotten mysteries. In real life, they are very much in use. Vibrant places where the raw ingredients of human history are actively collected, preserved, managed, and made accessible. So, what are archives anyway? The word is used in three ways: to mean collections of historical records, to refer to the physical place where those records are used, and to talk about the organization responsible for them. Let's start with organizations. Archives can exist in libraries, museums, corporations, nonprofits, government, or community organizations. Some are private and require special approval to use, but most archives are open to the public for research and exploration. While many people contribute to archives in important ways, professional archivists are the ones who set standards for how archives should work. When we talk about archives as a place, we mean the actual space where collections are stored and staff work. There's also the reading room where researchers get their hands on the materials. Sometimes, though, there's not enough space to fit everyone and everything, and collections are moved to off-site storage. Finally, we also use archives to mean the collections of historical records themselves. These items were originally created or compiled by individuals, families, and organizations in the course of everyday life and business. These collections make up the first-hand materials of human history. Individually and collectively, the items in archives are valuable because they help tell stories about the world of their time, a record of struggles and triumphs, loves and losses, the mundane and the extraordinary. Each item is a piece of our larger human puzzle that you can see, touch, and experience yourself. It's equally important to remember that archives are incomplete. In addition to documents that archivists decide don't have enduring or research value, there are significant gaps in the historical record. Items and voices lost, destroyed, overlooked, and even ignored. These archival silences can often tell stories in themselves. Through archives, our history lives on, collected, preserved, managed, and made accessible today and for generations to come.
Always a teacher, right? Okay, Mayor Foxton, council, staff, and members of the community. I'm here to support the request to further consider 10 Water Street for archival or museum and/or purposes. I don't think anyone can question the importance of North Dumfries archival collection as a cultural heritage resource for this community, and as a resource that must be continued to be preserved and managed. It is clear that an archive helps to build a strong community by providing shared identity and connection, but that only happens when it's accessible. I wish to acknowledge and thank the local members of the North Dumfries Historical Preservation Society. If not for the tireless efforts of these dedicated volunteers and their many years of hard work, we would not be here this evening to discuss the future of the important collection. The fact that North Dumfries Township is the only municipality within the region of Waterloo that does not have suitable, accessible, permanent space for their archives is unacceptable. And it speaks to much greater issue of the need for increased focus on the protection and conservation of all our significant cultural heritage resources. These artifacts in the archives, in addition to our significant built and natural heritage. It is incumbent upon the members of this council and the next council to work together with your community to rectify this. The circumstances of the current renovations of the ACC with the subsequent necessary purchase of 10 Water Street have created an exciting opportunity that cannot be overlooked and should be thoroughly reviewed. The vision of the ACC as the future Air Community Cultural Center, Archives and Museum offers tremendous potential to better serve the needs of our growing community. With this in mind, and considering the proximity and the significance of 10 Water Street to the ACC, it would be premature to deem this significant property as surplus at this time. The property should be retained until the completion of the feasibility study for the future ACC. The potential of 10 Water Street
being included as a component of an air cultural center cannot be overlooked. It should be fully investigated and considered within the current ACC study. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak on this issue? I agree with that. Come up, Mary, please.
I have no question on it, not this thing. I totally support the museum and archive. But I can't.
Mary, you have to come up to the mic. You have to come up to the microphone, Mary.
Are there no questions about it? Yeah. I guess, let's see if Rick and I, we totally support the museum and archives, but not the purchase of over $1 million, plus the insurance, plus maintenance, plus staffing, plus the fact that we don't have strong tourism in this town. Is there nowhere we can build within the tens of millions we're spending on these facilities that we put something that's located where we're gonna have parents coming from all over that can say to their kids, let's go into the museum. Let's go see, we're here. Let Johnny play hockey. We'll go over and look at the archives within the community center. I think it would be better. The cost of these old houses, you know, it's going to accelerate. It's a lifelong commitment, and it wasn't what we signed up for. So just my opinion, but totally support the museum.
Mary Kermit, did you get her name? Thank you, Mary. Anyone else wish to speak? Go ahead.
Peggy Younger. I just want to say I am very supportive of a location for our archives. I was recently doing the house tour this past summer. It was enjoyable. A lot of people here were volunteering. And we had come back to the portable. And quite frankly, I was embarrassed for our community. I was really embarrassed. There's so many items available for us to display properly and allow good conversation, allow our children to understand what took place here previously. And I think it is, we need to find some place for it. 10 Water Street, in my opinion, is a fantastic building for it due to its heritage. But I trust that you will come to a proper decision on where we will put it. But I think it is extremely important that we get ourselves out of that portal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you get your last name? Anyone else? Go ahead, Karen. Oh, and then Dorothy, did you have your hand up as well?
Yeah.
You have to carry it.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Karen Bass. I've lived in air all my life, and that is a floodplain. I remember going down there and sandbagging. Every time the water comes up, it floods. Like, who's gonna, pay for that? Us taxpayers? That's what I have.
Thank you, Karen. Dorothy Costa.
I'm
You're in Mass.
Costa. I live at
And then
56 Water Street in here.
Dorothy Costa.
Due to the fact that they've already paid 1 million to that place. I'd like to have the archives, but not on my street. That is not the place to put it. It has to be more central for everyone. And by the time you do renovations on that place, the cost of it to convert it, who knows? Like, is the basement the old stone basement? I don't know. You're looking at a lot of money to maintain that and upkeep it. And with the cost of everything going up, and then you're gonna have to hire someone, and the parking. No, there's not enough parking if you think people are going to go down there. It's out of the way. It shouldn't be there. The archives has to go someplace else in the new arena, the old one, but not on Water Street. Thank you.
Anyone else? It's like speak now or forever hold your peace type of thing situation? No, it's not. That's not. No, I want to thank you all. You have brought good information. You have brought your passion. And I want to thank you for this evening, and how you've acted here. We are community. We may have different views and different ways of seeing things, but we are community. And as community, we all want the best for each other. And I believe we still want it on our part. I think all of us want it. It's finding the right place. And I don't know what that is. And we did discuss. Did you want to defer the motion? Councilor Wilms.
I have a question for staff.
Sure.
So through you, Madam Mayor, to staff. What are some of the financial implications of keeping this building? At the moment, we've just kind of borrowed 1.2 million. Is there, if for hypothetical reason we were to keep this building, are there grants available for this? Are there like anything, because, or is this going to then be either a debt or a tax increase?
Madam Mayor, through to Councilor Wells. Pretty broadly worded question of me, so I'm gonna try and put it into pockets if I can. So council did spend approximately $1.25 million to acquire the property. We did borrow internally from other reserves to bridge the acquisition with the, going back to March 2026, with the intent that we would sell the property in 27 and return the funds back to those reserve accounts. If council or the future council chooses not to sell the property and keep it as a municipal property, then we would have to make an adjustment to our reserve forecast and what projects would either have to be delayed, dropped from the forecast, and or alternative sources to make up the difference of the $1.25 million. That's the immediacy. The other aspect is then what do you do if you're keeping the residents? Working on the premise, it's a museum or archive, we're going to call it a place of public assembly, because that's what it would be classified under the Ontario Building Code. Home is built as a residence, we'd be moving it to a place of assembly as a change of use, which triggers an Ontario permit under the Ontario Building Code. So now being a place of public assembly, we would be looking at modifying the interior portions of the residence to meet code for a place of public assembly. Now, we would not be doing it in the same manner as if it was a brand new building. There is permissions in the Ontario Building Code to recognize some limitations related to existing buildings. However, there are certain aspects where there isn't that ability to adapt and modify under the code. So some things like barrier-free accessibility, both pathway into the building. The other is washroom facilities would have to meet code. And then there is what we call the life safety aspects. So detection systems, early alarm systems, so that people in the event of a fire or equivalent have the ability to safely escape out of the building. I don't know about the weight capacity of the existing floor system, the foundation or the beam structure that is in the basement area, and its ability to hold a load that beyond what we would normally assign to a residence. The reality is when you start getting into stacks, they're very dense by their weight, and you may have to look at certain structural changes in the lower level to accommodate the weight bearing capacity. That's part of an analysis, and it might trigger some structural changes in the basement area to hold the weight or weight distribution of a museum, gallery, public assembly space. So any of that renovation, adaptive reuse, the cost is unknown, but there would be some changes required because it was built as a residence and you're physically changing the purpose, and you would have to re-devise and incorporate those aspects into the future design. In terms of grants, yes, there are. Some are through foundations. Some are through senior levels of government, or oriented on the capital side toward federal programs. There are certain provincial grants that are available more on the operations side to deal with hiring technical qualified staff, running of certain programs or initiatives that would be complementary to some of the activities that were identified by some of the speakers in terms of place of destination, an opportunity for learning and the like. So there is no one single answer. You've got to sort of unpack it into those areas.
Councilor Rowland.
Madam Mayor, I have a couple of comments. Looking at the video from Karen Scott Booth and listening to the presentation from Irene Edney, it's apparent that we need an archives, and that an archives has some form, and we don't know what that form looks like at this point. When I was quoted as saying, put the cart before the horse, that's precisely what I meant. We don't know what that cart is, as Irene said. We don't know how big it's going to be. We don't know what's going to hold. We don't know how we're going to use it. So when Councillor Williams and I put forward the motion at a previous meeting to prepare a business case, it was our intention, and perhaps it wasn't worded clearly enough, and there's why, as the Air News says, confusion reigns over the village of Ayr. But I think what we were trying to get to was, can we look at how many pieces are in their collection? How much space do they require? Is it forward facing? How much do they need for climate controlled maintenance of old artifacts and archives? And once we have an understanding of that, then we have to look at, because I know I've talked with Irene over the years about the Ayr libraries being a location. We talked about the Ayr Community Center being a possible location. We talked about space here in this building as a possible location, and now it's 10 Water Street. I know the Polymatch, they talked about the Roseville Community Center as being a possible location. So there's been lots of discussion over the years. We've never said no, but we've never identified exactly what we're looking for. So I'm not saying it can't be 10 Water Street, but what I'm saying is it 10 Water Street? Let's look at all the options, and the business case that the North Dumfries Heritage Preservation Society is preparing should be looking at all the options, not just 10 Water Street. Because why focus on 10 Water Street if the Roseville Community Center is a better building? Or why focus on 10 Water Street if the Ayr Community Center is a better building? So in order to avoid the confusion and not be accused of trying to move too quickly, I think we should look at deferring this motion until a future council. Give the North Dumfries Heritage Preservation Society time to prepare the business case, and then future council can take a look at it.
Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kind of add to what Councillor Rowland has said is, I do want to thank the North Dumfries Historical Preservation Society for all the work they're doing. It's volunteer work, and if they weren't doing it, we would have to pay for it. So that's pretty amazing that they're willing to do that. And I'm grateful for all those volunteers. I think an archival system and a museum is actually, or some sort of archival music place where people can go and research, is something that as council we need to start really prioritizing. There's a lot of demographic change that's coming. And with that, well, if we don't preserve the history that we have, some of that's going to get lost. I don't personally think 10 Water Street sounds a bit of a stretch to me, to be perfectly honest, for this, because of the items that were mentioned, because it was a short-term solution to fix a problem that we had just around the ACC. And I do see that there is a lot in our 10-year budget around fixing the ACC, which I find there's options there that perhaps we should be considering, or future council should be considering. So though I agree with the idea of deferring, declaring this surplus, I think that that does make sense at this point in time. And I also agree with a business case that looks at a number of different properties that we do have and looks at those and what it would cost and what would be the best option for people where, you know, where we make sure things are accessible, where we can put in a proper climate control rooms without costing a fortune. That would be fantastic. Or like, you know, with the ACC, we're already going to spend a good chunk of change on fixing it up in readaptive use. So that might be a great option. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I think I'm with Councillor Muller here on deferring it. I apologize if there was confusion, and I hope that there's going to be less confusion after tonight on this matter. If not, oh dear. But yeah, so this is kind of where I stand. It's like, I'm looking at 10 Water Street and I'm like, I don't think we have the budget. Like, it's $1.2 million, $5 million, and we've got a lot of money, a lot of things already, but we need to figure this out. And I agree that affordable for climate change control, yikes. That's not a good long-term solution at all. So I'd like to see that changed. Is there a way, so I'm not unsure about how the business case is totally progressing? Is there some more touch points with council that need to happen? Or is there something else where we can demonstrate our desire for an archival, more permanent solution for archives? I'm not sure, as well as different solution. That'd be my open question.
Thank you, Councillor Wells.
Is it too late to ask one question?
You may ask one question.
I just have one question. This is probably for Andrew. He's talking about grants and things like this. When I look on the Waterloo region, they have all of theirs archived and they're in the library in Kitchener. But is there any programs available to be able to take some of this and digitalize it and archive it that way? Not having stacks and stacks of boxes, because those aren't accessible either unless you know what you're looking for. But if you put everything on a computer system and that, you can look at that. Are there programs that way?
Before I go to CEO McNeil, you are digitalizing stuff already, right? You're putting it, yes, that's exactly what they're doing. They're already doing that.
Okay, but I'm wondering if there's any programs, like often like university, they have many summer programs for university students and that kind of thing. Have we looked at something like that we could get help? Like, I don't think it should be up to all the volunteers to do, but if they could direct help that way.
Actually, they have done that. They have used university students to come in and help them out as well.
Want me to speak?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
That's why I said come up.
I'm curious about that.
Tell us what you've done.
Okay. Well, in the past, the township did share a summer student with the Preservation Society. That was discontinued during this term of council. So we've only relied on ourselves to digitize as much as we can. So yes, we are actively digitizing. Our goal, and we do have a township budget, I'm going to say $10,000 set aside, because what our ultimate goal in the digitization process is to have the material accessed through a public portal on our website. So you do see that in other places. The difficulty we've been working on it constantly for 2 years, is the company we thought we had lined up in British Columbia wanted to take our digitized items and put them in their cloud. We didn't want to relinquish control of our archives. There's another company that's been recommended. They're not Canadian. So we're working all the time. Like this group of volunteers, we're working all the time trying to solve these problems. And what's happened now is that we're up against the wall. So unless we know what council's vision is for our society, if you want a public facing space, or if you don't, we don't know how we can move forward. Now, if I can respond to having the Preservation Society prepare a business plan on 4 different locations, that's beyond our capabilities. What we would like to present council with, number one, we'd like to work with staff. And what we'd like to present is exactly what we feel we would need to either, we can give you public space facing, or we can give you archival only. But we're wasting our time if we don't know what you want.
And that's exactly what I was suggest with Councillor Williams. I was going to suggest that a business plan, I'm asking for a business plan, but again, you're right, exactly for what type. But I want this council to meet, not just staff, but staff and council to meet with the Preservation Society on a 3 or 6 month basis to see where we're going and how we're proceeding. And I would like, and I would hope by the end of 2027, if not even the middle of 2027, we have a clear line of where we're going and how we're going to make it happen. That would be my wish for this council. I would like to include that in a motion of the deferral. I would like to state that action will be taken between council, staff, and the Preservation Society on a regular basis, coming to the conclusion of where an archival space will be. Councilor Roman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to the business plan, I'm not suggesting, or wasn't suggesting that the Preservation Society has to analyze all these different properties. What I meant was, first step in the business plan should be, what are our actual needs? What's the actual space that we require? What do we actually have in inventory? As Irene just said, do we want to have a forward facing or just archival? Once you have those basic questions answered, then we can look at locations. I think we're trying to shoehorn everything in 10 Water Street without even identifying what our basic business plan is. Let's put together a business plan first. Let's not eliminate any buildings. Let's leave 10 Water Street in the mix. Let's leave everything in the mix. And then after they have a business plan, they sit down with our staff and we look at what are potential locations, as Councilor Williams said, maybe it's the ACC. We look at our potential locations and then we can develop a business plan together. But we need that initial analysis just for them on the basics of how many visitors do they have? How much demand is there? How many pieces do they have? What sort of collection do they have? How much is digitized? How much is artifacts? Et cetera, et cetera. I don't know any of these answers. We can't make a decision on this unless we have some answers. So that's all we're asking for.
Sue. Go ahead. Maybe just stay standing there.
I'm sorry, we talk about respect, and I respectfully ask that we not use terms like shoehorn or carts or, things like that. I think CAO McNeely will attest that during our meeting that we had last Tuesday, we weren't shoehorning our request for 10 Water. I mentioned tonight, we presented 4 locations. 10 Water Street was only one of them. 10 Water Street only got this issue on the radar. So, we're not shoehorning or strong arming or putting carts before horses or anything like that. We're just asking for this to get on the radar and that we get some sort of vision from council so that we can present what we believe our needs are. We're not professional archivists. I'm not a professional Monteith employee business plan preparer. We're just a bunch of volunteers with a passion for preserving the history of the township. So however we get there, we need council's help.
I agree with you, Andrew, before you speak. The last time Andrew spoke, there was people laughing and making fun of him, and I will not put up with that again. They will be asked to leave if that should ever happen again. You will respect this man. He has a great deal of knowledge and he works passionately for this township. CEO McNeely.
So Madam Mayor, I shared these comments with the Historical Preservation Society when we met last week. Just to build on Zadney's comments, I do believe it was a two-way constructive exchange of information. One of the outcomes from our discussion of last Tuesday was that it might be appropriate for Township Council, along with members of the Historical Preservation Society, to tour a couple of the representative examples. And they could be a spectrum, both in terms of how they're staffed, size, focus, in terms of what they are displaying or promoting in their venues, so that there's a better understanding of, to some extent, collaboration, but actually touch, feel, kick from what was in the YouTube video that Karen showed as part of her presentation. And it might assist members of council have a better understanding of context. And with that, then, things could be better framed. Because one of the comments I made when we met last Tuesday is there an indoor-outdoor aspect? Because some agrarian-focused tools, instruments, or implements are not going to be appropriate by size in any of our buildings. They're just going to overwhelm the space. But they may be representative of a certain narrative component representing early settlement or agrarian practices. And so there might be something beyond bricks and mortar, but it could be the property itself to accommodate those elements, whether it be just seasonally or on an occasional basis, you're using some of that outdoor space to complement whatever the interior is. Certainly, I would expect that the majority of the business focus would be within 4 walls. It's given our climate, but also given the dominance of artifacts or periodicals or documents that are currently within the possession of the Historical Society. And some of those were shared verbally in terms of descriptions as part of our discussions on Tuesday. But I really do believe it might assist members of council better understand space, how space can be utilized. And as you saw from the YouTube video, sometimes the storage isn't actually at the location of the public facing aspects of the archive and or museum. Sometimes it's just what it is. It's a work area, it's a public facing area, and it's a display area, but the majority of your stored materials that might get then circulated through that space could be off-site. So there's all sorts of different possibilities and scenarios. And the question really is what's right sized, for lack of a better term, for our community, and learning from our partners to the south, if I look at Brant County or others here in Waterloo region, may assist council in better understanding some of the vision that's been articulated by members of the NDHPS.
I think what I'm trying to get at is that I want us to walk beside them. I think they've walked on their own for a long time and come to us periodically out of frustration. But I think now this council has to commit to the Preservation Society and work with them. And we do have to visit. And when we visit those other museums, we need to find out their business plan and see what fits for us. So we will have to communicate. And then we have to come up with a plan, a true plan. And I'm hoping that when we defer this motion, that we set a mid-December date, that the new council will meet with the Preservation Society and staff and talk about the direction they're going to go in. And we have to have a plan of direction so that there's no more wait. And I hope within a year that we are in line to find and be in a place. I don't know if I'm being optimistic, but I really think that I've got brilliant staff and I've got wonderful volunteers, and you put them together and we can do a hell of a lot. I shouldn't have sworn mine. We can do a heck of a lot. So let's do it. So the motion should be that staff, council, and North Dumfries Preservation Society will work together, meet with the new council in December, and make a plan going forward. Is that adequate enough?
So we're doing this one, so this one, maybe.
Do you want us to make a new one? Okay, we'll defer this one first and then we'll do a new one. Okay.
Moving myself by Councilor Williams, that C report number 27-2026 be received, and that council declare the property of 10 Water Street area as surplus for municipal purposes, and that staff be directed to include potential disposition and sale of 10 Water Street for inclusion in the development of the draft 2027 budget, and that if the future council advances forward with a decision to sell 10 Water Street area, the services of a realty firm be utilized to ensure broad circulation and penetration into the market.
All those in favor? Opposed? Deferred? The motion is deferred. Now, see, you much better emotion than I am. Can you put into words what I told you said?
If I could, Madam Mayor, the first thing you have to do is receive the report. Because the clerk needs to archive the document.
Right.
All right, so.
So you're using recommendation 1. Okay, and all you're doing is you're just receiving the report.
Okay.
It means you acknowledged it, it's part of today's agenda. That's it.
Okay, so
So the second recital would be that direction is provided to Township Council, executive of the North Dumfries Historical Preservation Society and staff to undertake tours of representative archive or museum facilities in this area to inform future possibilities for similar venues within North Dumfries. The third recital would be something to the effect of, and that the NDHPS staff continue the work on a business case assessment on future opportunities, scale, operations, capital, space for a return report to the next term of Township Council.
Kelly, did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Did you get that, Ashley? Councilor Williams.
Madam Mayor, maybe it's a question, is this, perhaps for Ms. Abney, is this motion clear enough compared to the last one, which caused confusion?
I think so.
The only thing that was left out was that, they would also meet with not only staff but council.
No, I said that, I referenced council.
Thank you. I missed it. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Denise Bransky. I have a question. So we've deferred this decision. This means that the coffers will not be, or the previous allocations for these funds, $1.25 million, will not be refunded in early 2027. So these projects will be deferred as well or canceled for 2027. Is that my understanding?
CEO McNeely.
So Madam Mayor, if I go back to the earlier discussions in the spring of 26 with Township Council, when we undertook the interim borrowing of the funds, we indicated to Township Council that the 1.25 billion that we were temporarily borrowing from reserves was not going to be required in the 18-month period. The intent was that we were going to list the property for sale in the spring of 27. The expectation by the fall of 27, there would be a sale and the net proceeds would be transferred back to reserves. So it does not affect the 27 campaign from a capital perspective. It is in the longer 10-year capital forecast. And so we will be tabling a draft budget and a draft capital forecast in December to Township Council. And it would show a deficit in certain reserve accounts that the next term of council would have to wrestle with in terms of next steps, options, implications.
Thank you. So it's the first line, that CEO report 27/2026 you received. Thank you so much. See, this is what I like about our community. When we come with difference of opinion and we talk and we come up with a path forward. And that's the great thing I love about you people. Is that we can do that. But you have to hold our feet to the fire. You have to remind us, don't forget, council gets busy, staff get busy on a million other projects. And call your councilors. I won't be here. Call your new mayor. Regularly. I will be watching.
An unrelated call. You're watching over in the other room, your name never came up as Wilms, it came up as Williams. In every single Williams and not. And I knew it wasn't Williams.
That's an English spelling of her.
Well, that's what it shows on every single.
That's a yes.
It is. Oh. Sorry.
I see what you would have for me.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to call it because I knew it was wrong.
Is it school help?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Good night, folks.
Thank you.
We're messing up activity, but I guess if you want to leave.
Yeah.
That's right. Not good here, is it?
Okay. Motion, please, Council Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Rowland, that CAA report number 27-2026 be received. And that direction be provided to Township Council, the executive of the Historical Preservation Society and staff to undertake tours of representative archival museum facilities in the area to inform future possibilities for a similar venue within North Dumfries. And that the Historical Preservation Society and staff continue to work on a business case assessment on future opportunities, scale and operations, capital commitments, and space for a return report for the next term of council.
All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Sure that we don't have a meeting.
We were gonna vote. Yeah, for sure.
13.2.2 is report number CAO 28-2026, expression of interest, evaluating the municipal service corporation model for water and wastewater services. Any questions from the public? Oh, Council Austin, yeah.
You know, like this long broad. Or button that lights up.
Welcome back.
We
We talked too much.
went home.
No, you could have brought us some. Item 13.2.2, report number CAO 28-2026, expression of interest, evaluation of the municipal service corporation model for water and wastewater services. Questions from the public? Do you know what this is? The province has asked us to comment on water wastewater and how we can see it being better dealt with. And so CAO and Family has done a great report. Not making a commitment, but giving a lot of feedback to the province on what to look into. And I was interested to see that the region actually talked a bit about this morning. I was shocked at their openness of ability to talk about it, even conceive it.
Given the hundreds of millions of dollars that are facing Waterloo region, I don't think they've got too much choice.
Yes. So any questions from council? Councilor Rowland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the CAO. So would this mean then that we would take control of our water back from the regional water?
No, we as an area municipality would not. It would be the Municipal Service Corporation, which is an arm's length. So I'll draw a parallel. Grandbridge Energy. The shareholders are the municipalities within the service district, but they're at arm's length to Township Council. In the case of Grandbridge, they're charged with responsibility of distributing hydroelectricity service to customers. In this case, water, wastewater for the serviced areas of the participating municipalities. So the major infrastructure, the water treatment, water storage, distribution system, and on the sanitary side, the collection system and the sewage treatment systems.
Can you give me the example of the one you did this morning at regional council?
So there is an example that was created in the late 1970s and has existed to this day and continues to operate. It's a municipal service corporation involving the area municipalities within portions of Huron County, portions of Lambton County, portions of Middlesex County, the City of London, City of St. Thomas, and a portion of Elgin County. And there's 2 water treatment facilities on Lake Huron. Water is drawn from the Lake Huron Basin, it's treated, and then distributed to those benefiting municipalities. And there's a board of management made up of representatives from those area councils. The City of London provides the technical expertise to support the operation of the board. And it deals with both capital as well as operating components. And as I said, it's been scaled over 40 years now. And as you can appreciate, you've got small and larger urban centers, you've got rural settlement areas, and it's provided uninterrupted potable supply to those communities of interest over its period of operation. Province, through initially Bill 60 and then amended through Bill 98, is looking at the significant amount of investment dollars that are going to be required to build infrastructure at scale for water, wastewater. And they do not believe the current municipal framework is conducive for the longer term needs and commitments that are required. And so they provided enabling legislation where the minister can establish municipal service corporations for water, wastewater. The minister is now canvassing interested municipalities for an expression of interest to help the province shape what that future regulation or regulations may be, to frame, put screening criteria and where it might be appropriate. And so this paper, if council adopts it, would be the township submission. And the filing deadline is August 13th.
And if I can just reiterate, so you heard about the conservation authorities and making them go together. Well, Samantha Lawson is the chair of the Grand River Conservation Authority. And she looked at what the province had put together and said, this isn't a good plan. And she rewrote the plan for them. They loved it. They adapted it. Grand River Conservation Authority is in its entirety whole. It will take in 3 other conservation authorities. They will work together. The province has put Samantha Lawson as head of the new conservation authority. So every time we put in something like this, if it's good, the province uses it. Better that we have our voice heard rather than somebody else's voice and put upon us. And that's why I really like this. Councilors or staff, any questions? Can I have the motion, please, Councilor Rossman?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Rowland, that CAU report number 28-2026 be received. And the council directs staff to submit an expression of interest to the province on the realm of municipal service corporations for water and wastewater services by the August 13th, 2026 deadline. And that this report be circulated to Cambridge MPP Brian Riddell, the Honorable Minister Mike Harris, MPP Kitchener-Conestoga, the Region of Waterloo, and the area municipalities of Waterford Region.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next is report number PD 49, 2026 zoning bylaw amendment application 92 Cumberland Street. Any questions from the public? Mike, did you want to speak on this? You have 5 minutes.
Foxton Council and staff.
So I can see people.
My name is Mike Schmidt and I'm here representing Knox United Church. I've been an Air resident for over 50 years. We are supportive of the recommendations of the staff report. We'd like to thank Mr. Campos for his assistance in helping us navigate this planning process. Knox United Church has been at this location since 1888 and is a prominent institution within the community. This application is extremely important to the future existence of the church and all of the local groups we support, including North Dumfries Preschool Co-op, First Air Scouts and Beavers, Porch Light Services, including Young at Heart, Seniors Luncheons, and counseling groups, Cambridge North Dumfries Food Bank, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, space for Safety Tree Home Alone and babysitting courses. We also provided low-cost rental space for area and surrounding residents and clubs. From a planning perspective, as outlined in the staff report, the proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement of 2024 and conforms to regional and township official plans. An apartment is a permitted use under the township official plan, and the proposal satisfactorily addresses policies regarding land use compatibility, cultural heritage, and the natural environment. The public concerns addressed at the public meeting and through written comments have been addressed and are well documented in the staff report. Modifications were undertaken to the application following the public meeting to address public concerns. These modifications, as outlined in the staff report, included enhanced setbacks and the submission of a parking utilization study which justified the parking standard requested. A shared parking arrangement is proposed. It is important to note that the township parking standard will be satisfied. The modified parking standard requested for the church use more closely aligns with the demands of the church congregation. All technical matters have now been addressed to the satisfaction of the public agencies. The building proposed is very similar in built form to the neighboring Butte Street condo building. At the public meeting, council members will recall that a heavy emphasis was placed on the future township planning staff recommendations to determine their position on the application. We would respectfully request that council endorse the township planning staff recommendations. The proposal will provide more affordable and attainable rental housing in the community, something that is greatly needed in Air. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, questions from council? Councilor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I remember last time we discussed this, one of my questions was whether the building, whether you looked at variation of where this building could go. Was that taken into consideration when we looked at, when you looked at where this building could go in conjunction to Butte Street so that, you know, maybe it could go over a little further so it wasn't as close to them, or they were worried about sight lines?
Shadow, building shadow.
Yeah, and sight lines they talk about as well, like out from their balconies and stuff like that. So I just wondered if there was any looking into options of where that building could be relocated on the property to maybe address those issues. Was that ever looked at?
Michael?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Ossner. It definitely was a consideration of ours, and the important thing to note on this application is that this plan is conceptual, so it's not a final plan. It's not the only location that a building can be located. what we've tried to establish through the zoning is a building envelope and development limits. So we've established setbacks that are required from exterior side yards. We've established a separation from the church building. We've rezoned we're proposing to rezone the rear portion of the property that is environmentally sensitive to an environmental protection zone. And that includes a 10-meter buffer from the top slope. So we're recognizing that there are steep slopes at the rear and that we should be maintaining that a future building away from that slope. So we've incorporated a 10-meter buffer. So a future developer or someone who comes forward with a plan will have to work within the limits of the zoning that we've established, but it doesn't require them to follow the conceptual plan to a T. So we've actually, that's the whole intent of this zoning, is to establish those regulation limits. And different proposals can come forward with a different site design that has the building, behind the church, 15 meters away from the church, maintaining the established interior side yard setbacks. As long as it can accommodate the required parking, it can accommodate the required infrastructure, the stormwater management requirements, access, pedestrian connections. That is all things that we've considered as part of this plan. But it's very important to note that this was a conceptual plan. The applicants came forward with a representation of what potentially could occur on the property. It didn't mean that it was going to be the final design, but it was a way for us to understand how the site could be accommodated, what is the upper limit of development that we could establish on the site while maintaining compatibility with the surrounding area and while being able to accommodate the infrastructure to actually support those residents in the future and protect the natural features at the rear of the property. So that was the real intent of the zoning here. The future site plan process will determine the actual site design and the layout of the property.
Thank you, Michael. Council Austin.
Okay, so are we approving this tonight in concept, or what are we approving? Or what is the recommendation, I should say?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councilor Austin. What is before Township Council this evening is an implementing zoning bylaw that would establish the ability to accommodate an apartment style building, no taller than 12 meters in height, with a capacity no greater than 33 units, dwelling units. And you're setting the parameters of where the building can be vis-a-vis adjacent lot lines. You're establishing the limits of development as it relates to the Nith River Valley system and the appropriate setbacks from that stable top of bank. You're setting the formula for zoning that would inform the parking formula for both the place of worship and its ancillary uses and the residential development if it's pursued at a future date.
Council Austin.
So if we're setting a parameter from the church, so many meters from the church, so many meters from the edge of the cliff, I guess down to the water, and so many meters from View Street, you're basically saying that's where the building's gonna go then. So there's no changing it, because if you change it one way, you're not 50 meters from the church. If you change it the other way, you're not so many meters from View Street.
So Madam Mayor, I'm going to draw everyone's attention to page 399 on your agenda package.
Michael, can you put it up there for everyone to see? Thank you.
This is the concept plan.
Yeah.
What Mr. Campos was trying to articulate is, this may not necessarily be the final product if and when Knox United either finds a partner and or sells a portion of land for that investor to acquire the property. This happens to be probably the most efficient form, recognizing some of the constraints that we talked about, trying to maximize parking, support both activities, recognizing the limits of development in the context of the Nith River Valley system, and then respecting the adjacent residential properties that frame to the north, to the east, and to the south of the site. But notionally, that apartment block could shift toward the southern lot. As long as you keep outside that those limits of development or non-development associated with the stable top bank of the Myth River system. You do not encroach into the side yard on the south lot line. And you can meet the parking formula. Or you have to scale back the building if you can't meet the parking formula. And you can't be greater than 12 meters in height. So we've tried to establish an envelope. And in theory, the building could move within that envelope based on that purchaser. As long as they do not offend all of those standards, which I've tried to summarize in the report related to parking, setbacks, height, protection of the Myth River Valley system.
Councillor Austin.
So last question on that. So then hypothetically, if that building was to move closer to Knox Church, would we have to amend?
That's my question. Can I ask a question? Because I think this goes to, we were in the other room for the other meeting. And I know Mr. Osner's, I thought he was commenting about where the variance is. What do you say, what's a variance and what isn't, like, you know, sort of thing. Where do we call the line? So this proposal's got very strict limits to that. Can they come back to the council when they've got a new plan or whatever and say, we can't get these parking spaces, we need a variance, or we have to be closer to the lot line, and we get a variance? Is that possible? I brought that up in my letter. Can we go and have variances at some point?
So make
I know you
changes to
can't
the
probably-
changes that we've made. CEO McNeil.
So Madam Mayor, any individual corporation at any point in time can bring forward amendment to the zoning bylaw amendment, either in the form of a minor variance application and or a zoning bylaw amendment. There is nothing that the municipality can do to stop someone from seeking filing of a planning act application. If it's a minor variance, the committee of adjustment, which right now happens to be Township Council, but it doesn't necessarily in the future term of council, would be charged with the responsibility to hear the minor variance application. So there's notice, there's a public meeting, there's a decision mechanism. If it's a zoning bylaw amendment, that rests with Township Council. And once again, there's notice, there's a public meeting, there's a decision mechanism.
So if that happened and somebody did that, there would be the public meeting again. And the public would be asked to speak and give their comments. And you can say, well, I wanted it to stay in the original. And I think it's okay.
Like some are definite, like you can't do this, but I can see some of these other ones becoming issues if the site plan has to change. So that's my concern. But I thought I have to congratulate Michael too, because I sent things back and forth and he was very responsive. Thank you for that. And he explained a lot of things. There's still a lot of things that have to be done, and that's okay. I'm still very concerned with the stormwater storage because just look up at Foodland anytime there's a rain, and it doesn't even have to be a big rain. So I'm concerned about that and being discharged onto that land. As you know, I used to live on Piper Street in a house that had to be torn down. It was confiscated because they thought it would be a detriment to the hillside. And that was only a single house. I can't imagine the rainwater coming off of an apartment building. And if there's ever a big storm, if it goes to the back, that will compromise that. And I know you can do all the studies you want, but it will compromise that hill. So it's got to be, that's got to be a major, major thing. And I know you're looking after it. No, I know, he's very good, and that's good. So thank you for that. Thank you for your response and all of those things.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So basically, all I wanted to know is whether that building, if the developer so chooses, to be able to be moved within the property, that this wasn't the actual final concept.
That's right. So this is Knox United's best effort in terms of what potentially could yield on the property. The technical analysis has been done. The zoning parameters have been recommended to council. But it is not out of the realm of a possibility that a future purchaser in negotiations with Knox United, because remember, at the end of the day, it's Knox United's property in its entirety. They would actually have to consent to where that future building would be. But then the zoning would then lay on top, and the future would have to reflect and respect the zoning parameters that are in front of council tonight.
Good. Okay, the motion, please, Councillor Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Osmer, that report number PD 49 2026 be received. And that bylaw number 3667 26 being a bylaw to amend general zoning bylaw number 689 83 to retain the Z13 institutional zone on the subject lands, file ZC 08 2592 Northumberland Street, subject to a site-specific exemption permitting one residential apartment building containing a maximum of 33 dwelling units and establishing associated site-specific development standards, and to rezone the rear slope hazard and associated setback lands to Z.12A Environmental Protection 1 Zone be enacted. And that Township Council is satisfied with the requirements for a public meeting in accordance with subsection 3417 of the Planning Act have been met.
All those in favor? Here, thank you. Next is report number PD 58. You can sneak out if you want to. Anybody can sneak out. Next is report number PD 58 2026 site plan exemption temporary encroachment and lay down yard. Any questions from the public?
Do you object with this? Is that
No
why-
questions from the public? Any questions from council? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please, Councillor Austin?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Rowland, that PD report number 58 2026 be received, and that bylaw number 3668 26 being a bylaw to further amend bylaw number 2105 site plan control bylaw to exempt the lands municipally addressed as 22 Northumberland Street from the site plan control process for the purpose of rebuilding the two-story mixed-use building that was demolished as a result of a fire and related minor site works be enacted, and that the owner be granted the ability to, one, utilize a portion of the former lawn bowling green situated on the west side of Tanner Street as a laydown yard during the construction period, and two, utilize a portion of the township lands along the north side of the proposed building with a temporary encroachment to facilitate construction activity associated with the redevelopment. And that the permissions confirmed in recommendation 3 above will all be subject to written terms and conditions completed to the satisfaction of the township solicitor and the chief administrative officer. And that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents to facilitate recommendation on the 3 as summarized above.
All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And if the plan is to 13.2.5, report number BLDG 02-2026, sign variance request for 2492 Cedar Creek Road. Any questions from the public? Seeing none. Any questions from council? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councilor Lawlerman?
Moved by myself, so by Councillor Oster, that bill report number 02-2026 be received, and the council grant a sign variance under bylaw number 2491-12 for 2492 Cedar Creek Road to permit one relief from section N1C of the sign bylaw number 2491-12 to permit a pylon sign with a maximum height of 10.7 meters, whereas the sign bylaw permits a maximum height of 7.5 meters. And two, relief from section N1D, pylon sign with a maximum sign area of 37.5 square meters, whereas the sign bylaw permits a maximum sign area of 10 square meters. And 3, relief from section A19 of the sign bylaw number 2491-12 to permit a non-accessory pylon sign to advertise and promote businesses which are located on adjacent land holding to the south, where the sign bylaw prohibits non-accessory signs.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. And next is report number FD 10/2026 Fire Protection Grant 2026. Any questions from the public? Questions from council? You're all worn out. Okay, let's go on the motion, please, Councilor Wells.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Williman, at the report number 10-2026 be received for purposes of information and a council authorized the fire chief to submit an application to the province of Ontario under the 2026-2027 Fire Protection Grant Program for a firefighter occupational cancer prevention equipment. And that should the application be successful, the approved equipment be appropriated into the fire department's 2027 capital budget with the provincial fire protection grant as the identified funding source.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, that's the shelter dugout. We're gonna go down to 13.2.8, report number 23/2026, lift and dedicate 1 foot reserve as a part of the public highway 5 Cochrane Drive. Any questions from the public? Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, the motion, Councilor Austin.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Roman, that report CLK 23-2026 be received, and that part 9 of Plan 67R-3755 be lifted and dedicated as a public highway. And that bylaw number 3665-26 being a bylaw to lift the 1 foot reserve and dedicate it as a public highway be enacted.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Report number 24/2026, Integrity Commissioner Greenfield. Any questions from the public? Questions from council? Seeing none, the motion, please, Councilor Woman.
Moved by myself, and by Councilor Williams, that report CLK 24-2026 be received. And the council enter into agreement with Guy W. Giorno of Faskin Martin Dumoulin LLP at a rate of $350 per hour plus HST and disbursements to provide integrity commissioner services for the period extending until 2029. That the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign any documents related to this matter, and that bylaw number 3666-26 being a bylaw to appoint Guy W. Giorno of Faskin Martin Dumoulin LLP as Township or Dumfries Integrity Commissioner be enacted.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next is report number 25/2026, amendment to the 2026 meeting schedule and adopt the January 2027 to April 2027 meeting schedule. Questions from the public? Questions from council? Okay, can I have the motion, please, Councilor Ross?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Osmer, that CLK report number 25-2026 be received. And that council amend the 2026 council meeting is scheduled by amending the inaugural meeting for the new council scheduled on Monday, November 16, 2026 to begin at 7:00 p.m. to be held at McNeil Hall at the Air Farmers Mutual Community Center. And that council amend the 2026 council meeting schedule by adding a combined council and public planning meeting on Monday, November 30th, 2026 at 6 p.m. And that council amend the 2026 council meeting schedule by adding a special council meeting on Wednesday, December 9, 2026 at 6 p.m. to address a statutory public meeting under section 26 of the Planning Act regarding the official plan update. And that council adopt the 2027 meeting schedule that includes meeting dates for January, February, March, and April currently. And that staff will prepare and present the remaining 2027 council meeting schedule in a follow-up report at a later date to be considered by the new term of council. And that staff publish the adopted 2027 meeting dates on the township's website, the social media accounts as part of the ongoing public consultation and community outreach program.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And next is report number 13.2.11, report number 2026. Township office holiday closure. Any questions from the public? Any questions from council? Okay, can I have a motion, please, Councilor Osmer?
Move by myself, second by Council Rowland, CLK report number 26-2026 be received, and then council authorize that the township municipal offices and administration office for the Air Farmers Mutual Community Center be closed from Thursday, December 24th, 2026 at 12 noon through to Monday, January 4th, 2027 at 8:30 a.m. And that staff be directed to advertise the holiday office closure on the township's website, social media accounts, and local newspaper.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And 14.1, Councilor Rowland, major maintenance, expanding parking area at Cedar Street Public School.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So earlier this year, Cedar Creek School Principal approached me and I had a meeting with the CAO and her with regards to problems with parking at Cedar Creek Public School. So our staff has sort of pilot project where we open up additional parking in front of the tennis courts at Schmidt Park, which I think was fairly successful. So the school is interested in continuing with that. So we just want to formalize that relationship here today.
Any questions, councilors? Seeing none, the motion please, Councilor Rowland.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Wilms on the matter of winter maintenance, expanded off-street parking at Cedar Creek Public School. Council is in agreement that the gates be opened from November 15th, 2026 through April 1st, 2027 to provide surface parking adjacent to the tennis court. And further, it is recommended that winter maintenance for this expanded parking area shall be undertaken by the Water Regional District School Board at its expense, with the township named as an insured. The Water Regional District School Board and the principal of Cedar Creek Public School shall be advised of council's decision on this matter.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Councilor Wilms, see you in a while. Councilor Rowland, you're up.
Madam Mayor, as council may know, a lot of surrounding municipalities and municipalities in general throughout Ontario are being asked to review applications for AI data centers. And in my discussion with the CAO, it came to my understanding that we don't really have a policy per se on AI data centers. So I wanted to get a better understanding from staff how we would receive such an application, what sort of tools we have at our disposal to preferably prevent these massive hyperscale AI data centers from coming into North Dumfries Township, putting a big strain on our electrical grid or water, that sort of thing. So before those questions could be answered, staff would have to basically come back and report as to what sort of tools we have at our disposal.
I think it's an excellent idea. We're all reevaluating this situation. Any questions, Councilor Austin? No?
No, I'd be honest with you, I'm not 100% understanding this.
So he's asking staff to look into how we would deal with the potential application of a data center coming here.
Coming to North Dumfries.
Yes. So it's just a report from staff on the pros and cons.
Okay.
So the motion, please, Councilor Rowland.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ossner, that staff be directed to review Ontario's current land use planning framework and the township's local policies to determine how they would apply and assess the merits for hyperscale data center proposal if such an application were to be submitted, and that staff identify and make recommendations to council that would assist in framing a local responsive program to deal with potential hyperscale data center proposal.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, you-
Is that the real Alita or?
It's an AI version. So 15 full session 16.1 report for number CAO 29/2026, a proposal for pending acquisition and disposition of land by the municipality or local board, Municipal Act 2392 bracket C, and 16.2 report number CAO Fire Department labor relations or employee negotiations, Municipal Act 2392 bracket D. Moving into closed, please, a motion, Councilor Jones.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ossner, that council move into a closed meeting session at 9:16 PM pursuant to the Municipal Act, section 2392, to discuss report number CAO 29/2026, a proposal of any acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, Municipal Act, section 129(2)C, and report number CAO 30/2026, fire department, labor relations, or employee negotiations, Municipal Act, section 2392D.
Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So just a moment.
All these parallels valid, since we didn't do them all.
Stop doing it.
I have no idea what you're looking at. Sorry, Madam Mayor.
It says no decision, maybe we did. Councilor Austin, please, can you read the firefighter report? Yes.
Okay. So move on myself, second by Councilor Williams, that effective January 1st, 2027, the roster and service level of personnel for the North Dumfries Fire Department will be established at up to 39 individuals. The roster would be comprised of one full-time equivalent fire chief / CEMC and up to 38 part-time volunteer firefighters. And then on an interim basis for 2027, an increase in the part-time volunteer firefighter complement up to 39 personnel will be established to facilitate the delivery of a recruit class and onboarding program.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we have business license. Oh, no, okay, no motions, bylaws. That is Councilor Rose, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ullman, that the following bylaws be read a first and second time. 19.1, bylaw number 3665-26, being a bylaw to lift a 1 foot reserve and dedicated as a public highway. 19.2, bylaw number 3666.26, being a bylaw to appoint Guy W. Giorno of Foxton Martineau de Mullen LLP as Township of North Dumfries Sanitary Commissioner. 19.3, bylaw number 3667-26, being a bylaw to further amend general zoning bylaw 6983 as amended for the Township of North Dumfries. 19.4, bylaw number 3668-26, being a bylaw to accept lands within the municipality from site plan control. 19.5, bylaw number 3670-26, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the Township of North Dumfries at this meeting held on August 10, 2026.
All those in favor? All right, thank you. And Councilor Austin.
Move by myself, second by Councilor Williams, bylaws number 3665-26, 3666-26, 3667-26, 3668-26, and 3670-26 be read a third and final time, be signed, sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? All right, thank you. Adjournment, please, Councilor Williams.
Moved by myself, by Councilor Austin, that whereas business for the company has completed at 9:54 PM and be resolved with the adjourned.
All those in favor? Thank you.